Hello and welcome to Better Than Mario Brothers, where each episode we delve deep into cinema sewer. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partner in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And welcome back for her third and final guest appearance on this show, the one and only Miss Helen McIntyre.
Nice to be back. Yeah.
Can we just clarify? It's not because we're killing her off.
No, but this isn't the end of Helen's character arc. Far from it. So tonight's film was suggested by Helen. She dropped me a text and said, "Have you done Tomb Raider yet? Because if you haven't, you really should." So of course we invited Helen on the show, and then Mark and I had a conversation for all of like 2 seconds that went something like, "Shall we just ask Helen to be on permanently?" So we did, and so from here on out, listeners, new year, new host. Helen's going to be joining us full time, so no longer a guest. So yeah. We think the show's better with Helen on it, so hopefully you agree. We don't care if you don't, because she's a part
it's happening anyway.
Yeah, it's happening anyway.
I'm with you guys as well. I think it's better if I'm here.
And she's so modest as well. She fits right. Okay, so we are kicking off this year with a look back at 2018's Tomb Raider. Now, when Helen first sent me the text of this, I was like, is it bad enough? I don't know. Because I have only seen this once, and it was on a plane. And I kind of don't think it's fair to judge any film if you've watched it for the first time on an aeroplane. As I keep saying about right. Venom as well, when that comes up. Like, I've only seen that on an aeroplane, and I thought it was fucking god-awful. But I'm willing to give it another try, like on an actual TV or on a screen. So I've only seen this on a plane. I saved it for the journey home. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I haven't. I guess I'm slightly weird. But I know I'm slightly weird. When I'm on a flight, I tend to. The first thing I do when I sit in my seat is look at the in-flight entertainment, and I will plan my viewing for both the flight out and the flight back. All right, because you have to space this shit out, especially if you're on long haul flights. Yeah. So I watched this on the way back from. I think I was coming back from LAX. It was a fucking long old flight there and back. And I saw this on the list. I thought, right, I'm going to save that as the first film when I get on the return flight, because like you're bummed coming back of holidays and stuff, and I really wanted to see this, missed it in the cinema. I'm a huge fan of the games this is based on, specifically the Survivor trilogy, like Tomb Raider in general, but specifically the Survivor trilogy. So I was like, right, I really want to see this. So I'll say it's something to look forward to. When I've got the holiday blues coming back, I'll be like, oh, it's cool, I can watch Tomb Raider. Now, I never sleep on aeroplanes. I have a serious problem with falling asleep on planes because I'm always the one driving the other end as well. I never managed to do it. This put me to sleep within about 45 minutes. And it was not a night flight. So it took me like 3 goes to watch this on the plane. So that really should have told me all I needed to know about rewatching this. But anyway, there's my history with it.
Yeah, I mean, mine. As I said, if I do mine, and then Helen can launch into why she recommended it in the first place. So I'm the same, massive fan of the games. I'm the other way. I prefer the more puzzly type games to the survival games. Just because that's more my mover anyway. I'm not a huge fan of the survival genre. But yeah, came to this on the back of the Angelina Jolie films, which were unashamedly awful, but they kind of knew what they were. You went into it expecting that. This one, I sort of saw the trailer when it released that, and I thought, "Oh fuck me, that's the intro to the game." And so it's even to some of the shots of her coming off the front of the boat and stuff like that. I thought, right, okay, this is going somewhere. This has got prospects. Did much the same thing, not with the plane, but generally didn't get to see it in the cinema because kids and life and shit like that. So I didn't see it for ages, and then I picked it up. It was on offer on iTunes. Christ, would have been Christmas 2019. Actually, before, so I bought it and I watched it on the flight to Boston. So I did watch it on a plane, but it wasn't the edited airplane version. It was the actual full version. And yeah, I came out thinking, okay, well, there's some issues I have with it, but not the worst film I've ever seen by any means. And then I didn't watch it again until yesterday.
Yeah, pretty much the same as me. I watched it last Sunday, but pretty much the same thing. It is specifically twice I've watched it. Okay, so Helen, what was it about Tomb Raider that made you think, like, do you know what? We need to give this a fucking kicking. Because let's face it, that's going to happen tonight.
That's what the show is for.
Yeah. I thought it was actually a really good comparison because it's not just is it better than Mario film? It's a case of, it's based on a existing video game franchise. The existing franchise is very successful. And, you know, it the same way as Mario when it came out was aiming to appeal to very much the video game audience, this one was with the marketing campaign and everything that did. And I actually did see it in the cinema. I saw it in East London, ironically enough, which meant the first part of the film I was really enjoying. I was just like, they've freaking nailed this. And I hadn't played the game because I think at the time it came out as like an Xbox exclusive, because I know that my friend Tom was playing it and I was watching him play it, and we were having conversations about Tomb Raider versus Uncharted. And I love Tomb Raider just as a genre, not just the sort of the franchise, but like the Indiana Jones and all of that stuff. You know how I go on about like my Chinese Tomb Raider dramas, you know,
Yeah.
all over it. But whereas Dracula Untold, like, I stand by the fact that you can't be pissed off with that film because it didn't lie to you on the poster. It wasn't pretending to be something that it was not. Like, you know, that was the untold story of Dracula, and it was untold for a reason. This one, Jesus Christ, like, what a fucking letdown. Like, and I mean,
yeah,
I got halfway through rewatching it, and I knew that there was a moment that was going to piss me off, and it pissed me off so much it took me 5 days to come back to it.
I know what that moment is, and it's
well,
one of my biggest problems.
Yeah,
with
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin touched on something you said though, talking about the Dracula Untold poster, not lying to you. This one did, because Alicia Vikander is not a fucking giraffe.
Yeah, I remember that poster. Whenever I see anything to do with this film, that poster is the first thing I think of.
But the stupid thing is that you actually find yourself looking at her, and she does have quite a long neck. But obviously in that poster, they just made it about 9 foot fucking long.
Yeah, I remember there being memes where it just got longer and longer and longer and longer. She's like fucking Mr. Fantastic by the end of it. Yeah, it is really bad. For what it's worth, before I dive in and kick the shit out of this film, and I am going to, spoilers, I think she's very, very good. I think she's excellent in this. I just do not think she's playing Lara Croft. And I specifically do not think she's playing the Lara Croft from the Survivor trilogy, because I don't know who this character is, but it's not that Lara Croft.
No, and I think the problem with it, and one of the problems I had with this film, as we'll get to it in more detail later on, is that they've kind of tried to smush the two together. So you have the first, probably 2/3 of it are this, getting to the island, and then the whole survival thing. Then they gloss over the fact that she's lost in the jungle.
Yeah, and then which is the first game.
Which is the game. And then they go into the right, okay, well, Tomb Raider is all about puzzles and death traps and shit. Now we need to throw some of that stuff in. And it doesn't know where it's pitching.
No, it's very confused. I don't have an issue with that in terms of pacing, because that's how the first game works as well. It's like you mentioned the trailer was basically the first game, and I specifically remember that because they have the bit where she falls out of the plane and she impales herself, and that's a huge part of the first game.
Yeah.
First third or so of that game, she's walking around clutching her side and stuff because she's fallen on a spike and impaled herself.
Yeah.
And she has to, and we'll get into the character development of Lara Croft in that game later on. It's unavoidable to talk about this without talking about that game. And actually, we should at this point as well, I suppose, give a trigger warning, because there is no way we're going to make it through this discussion without bringing up sexual violence and rape, because they're a huge part of that game as well. Well, not a huge part, but there's a huge pivotal moment in this character's journey that hinges around that. So trigger warning for those of you out there that are sensitive to that. Of course, we'll be as respectful as we can, but let's face it, this is actually talking about. Yeah. So she's got the thing where she falls on the spike and stuff. And yeah, I think I would have been okay with having the first 2/3 of the film of her getting to the island, being lost on the island, being hunted, and then getting to the tomb, and then doing everything that deals with. I would have been fine with that, because this is the first in what they hoped was going to be a franchise, and it is a reboot, and it is about Lara Croft becoming Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So just like the game, I would have been fine with that. The problem is, and this is the main problem with the whole film, despite all the little niggles that we're going to have that piss me off, problem is this has got a fucking 4-act structure, and that never works, and it especially doesn't work when you're trying to do a knockabout 2-hour fucking action-adventure film. Yeah. Like, there is no need. Like, you get that whole bullshit in London at the start, which you mentioned you like, Helen. That's the worst part of the film for me, because that is absolutely where she's not Lara Croft. There's a fundamental diversion from the character taken.
Oh, agreed.
That I don't understand why they've done that, because it does nothing but weaken this film. So there's that. Then you've got getting to the island. Then you've got being pursued, or well, not she's not even pursued really. She just falls straight across Trinity and helps them. But then you've got what would be that survivor section in the middle, where Trinity would be pursuing her in the game, and then you've got the tomb and releasing Himiko and stuff like that. Or in this case, it's not about releasing her; it's about this virus that they've written instead. Which again, I'm fine with. Like if you want to be on the side of that rather than supernatural,
and that was something they've always kind of flitted between in the early games. That yes, there was this whole mystical aspect to it, but there was also a bit where you could say, look, if you don't believe in that shit, there's something that's slightly earthly and almost natural and our worldly to it. So the fact that you have that you get to the bit where Himiko's not an all powerful god who's going to kill everything. It's a woman with fucking plague. That you can see how that's being played in both camps, and that works really well.
Yeah, and again, the game is very similar to that as well. Spoilers for anybody that hasn't played the game, but it doesn't put a foot firmly in either camp of whether Himiko's like actually this goddess or whatever until right at the very end. And the rest of the games are like that as well. It has that kind of, I mean, you can almost call it an Uncharted trope now, where you'll get 2/3 of the way through the game and then it's like, supernatural shit. We'll call it that because we're talking about video games. It is, of course, a Lucasfilm trope. But let's not beat around the bush. But yeah, so I'd be fine. Again, I'm fine with, all right, it's a plague, it's not something supernatural, whatever you want to do, right? But yeah, having the 4-act structure weakened the film for me instantly, and particularly the way those acts were, like that whole shit in London, we do not need.
No,
like, if you want to make it like the game, open it like the game, have them on the boat, have Lara being Lara, where in the game
she's on an adventure.
She's the academic of a documentary crew. She is yes, she's still got, like, her father is still the adventurer and stuff like that, and the archaeologist, and yes, she's got all that knowledge, but she's got that knowledge A, through a lineage, and B, because she's an academic who studied all of this stuff, and that's her background. And so then one of the things that works really well in that game for me, and I will still argue blind with anybody, that's one of the series as a whole are like some of the best written video games I've ever played. Not in terms of offering branching narratives and stuff like that, just as a straight, flat out narrative, A to B. Yes, they're games and they should be more than that, but they're not. They're cinematic, okay, which is why this should have been such an own goal. But that sort of progression from actually green around the gills academic who's just along for the ride, essentially, using her father's research because she's the gal that they're able to pay to take them to Yamatai, basically, and show them around, to getting lost in the jungle, to being kidnapped, almost raped, to running around the jungle and learning how to defend herself and hunt, to using her knowledge and raiding the tombs, and then becoming Lara Croft by the time we get games 2 and 3. That's a really powerful journey that you can track with, to the point where by the time you get to the end of that 3rd game, there are moments in that game that even now just give me goosebumps thinking about. There are like she gets full on Rambo moments in those games that you can never imagine her getting right back at the first one. And you can never imagine that happening with this version of Lara Croft either, because right from the off, she's kicking the shit out of people in a boxing ring because she's super fit. And like,
she's super fit, but she's not sort of.
Well, yeah, because she has to have somewhere to go, doesn't she? But again, like all of that stuff, and like they try and bring her down to street level, and they bring all the things in about the company, and they have that absolutely ridiculous chase scene through London on fucking bikes. Like, what? This is fucking Tomb Raider, not Paperboy, the fucking movie. She's wearing that fucking foxtail thing. What that? Like, is the director a furry? What the fuck is this about? Like, it's horrendous. And look, it's a well shot action sequence.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What is it doing in a film called Tomb Raider?
I was going to say it looks all right, and if you go back, and I mean, if you go back beyond the survival games, you go back into some of the other ones, the more sort of action adventure. They do have, but no, they will have bits in London. They will have bits in cities. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's in Legend, but you actually have to break into the company, into the sort of the corporate headquarters, and there are sort of stealth elements to it. There is a mission around that. So they do go into that sometimes, but the whole thing in London, they didn't need any. It doesn't add anything because everybody going into this film knows who Lara Croft is. They know what Tomb Raider is. So trying to deconstruct the character in this way doesn't work. But also, I mean, there's 2 ways to do it. Either start it on the boat like the game, And
that's the only way to do it in my mind. Yeah.
If you want to go down this route, because obviously they're trying to set up this franchise and they want to build in this of the element with Kristen Scott Thomas's character and stuff like that. Start with her not signing the papers, or with her finding this key, being given this key, and then finding the crypt, and then introducing it that way. So at that point, you say, right, okay, well, now we've got something to hang the narrative of this film on. It's that we don't need all this extra background crap that doesn't add anything and isn't going to go anywhere. You're straight into what's going on with the film.
Yeah. See, the problem that I've got with the opening sequence is, and it it's tying into my problem with the film in general, is the opening sequence only works if her father is actually dead. Yep. Because the whole point is that if her father is actually dead, then it's saying that she's holding herself back because she's unable to let go of him, which is why he needs to be dead on the fucking island, because that then ties into the whole supernatural thing. It brings it full circle. You get a really good devil's backbone moment, which then means, was she imagining it because of the grief and the stress and the fact that she's just like killed someone for the first time? And, you know, there's all the psychological things that then also ties into the supernatural element. But that whole London sequence, the only function of it, because if you go through it and you look at like what the actual shots are saying and where things happen, it's literally setting it up that she can only succeed when her father is gone. So the point is that if she gets to the island, she's got to succeed. It's got to be because her father's gone. And the fact that one scene between the two of them where they're just like sobbing in the, oh fucking hell, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. But then the next scene where she wakes up and the injury's stitched, you'd keep that, because that would be her moment of saying, yes, if I imagine my father, because of all the stress and everything, how did my injury get solved? And that would be your little spooky hook, much like the Empress, that would then lead you thinking, well, was it a ghost? What was it? And that would give you your supernatural element. And that's all you need to do. And it would be a much stronger film because of it.
Yeah. And believe it or not, that's how the game works. Yes,
he's
dead.
Exactly.
Yes, she's looking for him, but knowing that he's dead. Yeah. And she ended up finding tertiary characters that did know a father, and there is a father figure, and there's all of these elements. But yeah, they work because she's already carrying that baggage. Yeah. And that is needed because she absolutely has to be on her own. That's what character building about. She needs to be on her own on this island against a force. Yeah. And you can still have the ticking clock of like, right, I've got to find the tomb before Trinity because Trinity are evil. Incidentally, like you mentioned about they wanted to bring all of that in for a franchise as well. And that's another problem with the writing here is they are very clearly writing 3 movies before they've even made the first one.
Yes.
And you can have that in the back of your mind. Again, the games do that. There's a reveal for Trinity at the end of the first one, ties into the second one, and then it really kicks off in the third.
Yeah.
But that's a natural arc. If that first game had gone nowhere, no harm, no foul. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, because you haven't left anything unfinished.
Because you haven't left anything unfinished. Whereas this was all about setting up Trinity. This is all about, right, is this evil mega corporation that work in the shadows and they're basically Knights Templar and shit. There's all of that in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't need that. This is about Lara Croft. This is about, yes, we all know who she is, as you say. Like that's another thing. Like, why have we got an origin story? Because there is not a person on this planet like that doesn't know who Lara Croft is. And like, I'm sorry, if you were alive in the 90s or born after the 90s, you know who Lara Croft is.
Yeah.
Like, you might not be familiar with the background and the story, but if you were to show even a pensioner a picture of Lara Croft, I'm pretty sure they could at least go, oh, Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Like, she's that huge an icon now. Like, she's up with Mario and Sonic and Mickey fucking Mouse, right? Yeah. Everybody knows who Lara Croft is. So we don't need the origin story. And that makes it even more grueling when you've got this first... And it's about fucking half an hour that we spend just dicking around before...
Well, yeah, because you get the bit in London, then you get the bit where we have that sort of the bit in the crypt to it. That's all fine. I can live with that stuff because that's setting us up. But then it seems to go backwards a little bit, take its foot off the gas and go, right, okay, we're going to go to Hong Kong or wherever the fuck it is and do all that again. And then instead of having the chase scene with the bikes, we've got the chase scene with the bag.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing again. And she doesn't end it. So in much the same way that she doesn't end the bike chase, she doesn't end the chase with the other guys. She gets her bag back. They then chase her. So it's a reversal. And then they get onto the boat and the guy starts firing a shotgun and they fuck off. Without him, she's dead. Now, exactly the same as the fox hunt. She is caught at that point. She doesn't hit that police car. She's caught. The only reason she's not caught is because they all fuck off because they're big chickens.
Now, I've got a lot to say about that guy as well, but let's just take a quick step back and make sure we're going through this in the right order, because I'm going to jump ahead otherwise. We have talked about the opening then and the problems we have with that, and we've talked about the fox hunt. Incidentally, while we are on about the fox hunt, I know this is more of a Mark thing than a me thing, but I'm just watching, but I guess this is how boring I'm finding this. I'm just watching it thinking, like, how much paint is in that fucking can? Because she seems to ride right across London with a can of paint that doesn't empty.
I was going to say there's these very little trickles coming out, but the problem is it's not like this with a Christmas cracker driver. They stick a fucking knife in it.
Yeah.
So there should be a big split. Therefore, there should be hemorrhaging paint.
Yeah, it's absolutely pissing out of that can. You can see it.
But in reality, it's a tiny little drip here and there.
Yeah. But this whole thing, as we said, like the boxing or the whatever it is she's doing, taekwondo, whatever it's supposed to be, the riding on the bike that's supposed to show us that, she's got endurance and she's physically fit and she can fight. If you want to give us all that information because you're rebooting the character, fine. I disagree with it. I think she should learn it in the jungle like she does in the games, because it's a natural survival instinct and it's just kind of in her. But what you do is you open pre-credits, if you want, as well, with a little bit about her father and teaching her about Yamatai and Himiko, and make this like their fucking last crusade moment. Like, he's a general adventurer and archaeologist, but this is his thing. Like,
this is his one. This is what's dominated his life, and
right. So give us a brief pre-credits with that, and then like just give us some scenes pre-credits as well, where he's like teaching her how to fence, or actually doing something that an upper class, which let's not forget is what she is.
Yeah.
An upper class lady would be doing. Let's not try and get her down and dirty in the mud, because that is a different character, and that is going to come naturally later on. And that's what is so character building about those moments when all of that is stripped from her.
Yeah. And I've got to be one thing I did think as well, because they kept on cutting back to these little flashbacks with Dominic West, and like they all the stuff with remember your dad loves you, and the kissing the fingers and shit like that. But it's almost as if they kind of went, oh fuck, we've done all this stuff. At no point have we established that she fires a bow and arrow. She knows how to do archery. We better throw that one in.
Front load that, yeah. And again, this is, I know I've discussed this at length with both of you guys about many films. I don't know if I've got into it in depth in this podcast yet, but my approach to writing anyway is that unless it's structural, unless it's a whole part of your story, if you have to resort to a flashback to convey information like that, your story's fucking broke. Like if it's a big part of your story that it needs to take place in the past, and if you've got dual timelines and stuff like that, that's absolutely fine. But when, as you said, Mark, and that's exactly what it is here, it's like somebody's looked at it in the edit suite and gone, hang on, how does she know how to use a bow? Fuck.
Yeah.
Shit. Flashback. Broke. It's broke. Yeah. All right, you should have given us that up front. So, yeah, I don't understand why that didn't happen. These are crazy decisions, absolutely mental. And what annoys me even more is that they actually credit Rhianna Pratchett for this as well. I think it's just a stealth credit. I don't think she actually, according to IMDb anyway, she didn't actually put any words on a page for this. But it does show at least that they are, like, I don't think it's just lip service. I think they're actually familiar with her work and the game. So it's like, well, if you're going to go to all the trouble of crediting her, then at least use her character. Use the Lara that she gave us. Don't use this Lara that you want to give us.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that there's so many bits that they have taken, especially from that first game. Not just visuals, obviously. As I said, mentioned the visual jumping off the boat. You get the visual where she's on the wing of the plane and all that sort of stuff, and in the river. That's all fine, but it's like they've just kind of gone, right, well, yeah, we played the game, we liked the game, but it doesn't really fit with what we want to do, because we want to make this kick-ass Lara Croft film without going to all the effort of making her Lara Croft, and that would be fine if that's what they then did. Because again, coming back to the Angelina Jolie versions. She was Lara Croft when it started, and they may have been shit, but they fit in exactly with what you were getting in the games. It was Lara Croft. You start at a point where Lara Croft is already Lara Croft. She knows all this shit, and she's going to go off and do it.
Yeah, and
that's fine if that's what you want to do. Even if you want to reboot it, even if you want to make her younger, you want to bring in some of these survival elements. That's fine. If you want to do that, do that. Don't try and build in. They'd almost be better off if they kind of go, well, we want to make this new character. And making something which isn't related, and say, look, it's the same fucking action film, with the characters just not called Lara Croft, because then we can fucking work it.
It does feel like that at times. It does almost feel like they wrote another film and went, we'll never sell this.
Yeah, I mean, how many times
Tomb Raider.
how many times have we had that conversation on this show?
Yeah.
Whereby they've kind of gone, oh, we need to. Yeah, it's good, and there's potential in it, and there's bits in here you'd see in any other high budget action movie, but there's no hook. Oh fuck, what can we do? I know, we'll make it Lara Croft.
Yeah, I suspect we're also about to get the same thing with the Uncharted movie as well.
Yeah.
But
oh god,
we'll talk about that one day. I'm fucking sure.
I'm still hoping to be very, very, very pleasantly surprised, because I haven't got much hope at the moment.
oh god, no.
No.
I just looked at the casting. It's like no.
Yeah, I'm writing that one off before I even walk in. It needs to to be seriously good to convince me. But anyway, so yeah, we sound like bitchy fanboys at the moment, and there is an element of that with me, because like seriously, I cannot understate how much I love these fucking games. I think they're amazing. Okay, but anyway, like let's try and find something positive. So the first positive thing I've got to say actually is the action sequences are quite good. You know, it is quite comedy, and there is an absolutely great cut out of that bike scene, which is such a horrendous scene, and it actually brought me back into the film. There's a great cut from that to the police station. There's a match and action cut and there's a good way of cutting around it for what is, I think, a 15 rating, so possibly PG-13 in America, where she just goes and they cut straight out of it. Big fan of a match and action cut like that, so that works well, and it brought me back in for a little while. But then they took me straight back out of it with all of this inheritance shit immediately. And I'm like, look, this is not for the first film in the franchise. Yeah. This is for later on. Like, and if you do want to get into this now, give us like very few, like a scene will do it. Just let us know that she doesn't want this and she's turning her back on it. But again, there's an element of that which doesn't fit with the character, because she is Lara Croft, she is Lady Croft, and especially this one is searching for a father. So why the fuck would she turn her back on her father's company? Like, I get it that she's trying to run away from it and stuff, but at the same time, that is her only link to her father.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't track, because I mean, and we have it in some of the, it's in the other games, they're not just survival games. There's the whole thing of her parents in most of the games that came through it. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing is to say, she has the resources, she has, all of his research and all that sort of stuff, hidden down in the crypt. She has all this stuff, and that's what enables her to do it. So this whole thing of her, selling this, this necklace and having to sort of beg, steal, and borrow just to get by, it doesn't track.
No, it doesn't track with, and again, it's almost like this was written for another character, and then they kind of bolted Lara on, because my next note, in fact, is that it's about how good I think Alicia Vikander is. I think she's got like serious star power. I think she's a very good actress, and she certainly physically looks the part as well.
Yeah,
but she's just not playing Lara Croft, and I don't think it's her fault. I think she absolutely could play Lara Croft, and she could specifically play this version of Lara Croft.
Yeah, but the problem is because it's not written.
Want her to. Yeah, and so it seems so confused. And then, like you said, you go out of this bit of the boardroom into, like, you get the puzzle box and the crypt, and then she starts picking up the trail that her father's left, and it's got the makings of a really decent adventure romp.
Yeah,
but it's not Tomb Raider, and by trying to smash the two together, they're making it worse.
Yeah, and like, even you look at there are nods in there as well, where you get the thing about burning all the research, and then she turns up with it, and it gets taken. See, again, it's fucking Last Crusade. This is the third. This happened 30 years ago.
Yeah,
this isn't new by any means.
Yeah, it's also like that is the point when she does meet her father. Then he goes, "Didn't you burn my research?" Where I'm just going, "Oh, look." When she didn't burn it in the first place, I was calling bullshit. But for you to call attention to it in the script as well, I'm really calling bullshit. Like, this is any normal, clear-headed person would go, yeah, I should really burn this. Maybe have a quick flick through first if you want to, but then go, this got him killed. I should really burn this shit.
Maybe scan it and make some encrypted copies somewhere. But
like, this is all her fault.
She could have just taken pictures on her iPhone that's locked to her fingerprint. So she can scan through the pictures at any point, but without her, no one can access it.
But again, here's just another dangling thread of another film that's been woven in that doesn't work. Because if this is the decision that she's making, then that's fine. That could be a plot point. That's a big plot point in a lot of superhero films and things like that. And specifically in indie, you get it a lot of like, this whole mess is my fault.
Yeah.
Right, and then you've got the guilt, and you need to redeem yourself and clean it up. but they don't play on that later on either. They brush over it in the final act for a few seconds. It's like, no, actually, this is all her fault. This is her mess that she has to clean up.
Yeah.
Like, but that doesn't seem to weigh on her at all, you know.
No.
So that's really weird. Then just another little niggle in the crypt thing as well. You can tell I hate this because I'm picking up on all the Mark stuff, all the stuff that I normally go, suspension of disbelief. Don't worry about it. It's fine. There's this whole riddle about the first letter.
Yeah.
And she goes down and reads the inscription on the crypt. But wouldn't the first letter be I?
The first letter's L.
Yeah, like it's wrong, isn't it? Like it's blatantly.
Well, that's it. If it's a
letter,
it's either.
But
it's either the first letter of the whole,
because it's in loving memory.
Well, that's it. It's either the I in loving memory, or it's the L for Lord Richard Croft.
Yeah, but it's not the R.
Yeah, at no point is it the R.
No.
But again, no, neither of those letters would actually fit it. So you need to have it somewhere where it's enclosed. I get that; it's a practical point, but in that case, you need to word your riddle a bit more carefully.
Yeah, and even more annoyingly on a. Just on a pure calling bullshit standpoint, isn't it really handy that good old dad labeled the files that he wants burned and left them out on his desk like anybody would do with top secret files that you don't want anyone to find? That's exactly what you do. You label them Trinity and leave them on your desk. Yeah. Okay.
But might as well have a big neon light saying secret stuff in here.
But again, like there's a little bit of all this where I'm going like, yeah, all right. If this wasn't called Tomb Raider, I'd probably be enjoying this right now. But I can't. I just can't flick that switch.
If this was somebody who'd gone, right, we've got a budget of a couple $100,000. Let's go make the best action film we can make. I'd be all over this shit. I'd be happy as Larry.
Yeah,
whoever the fuck Larry is. Because it's like it's one of those you think, right, okay, well, they're trying. They're going out of their way to make something. They make the best that they can, and actually, they've kind of put themselves in a hole. They just need to get from point A to point B. It'll pass. It'll fly. Because this is a film that cost. Hang on.
It wasn't much. It was surprisingly little.
$106 million.
Yeah.
So for the type of film,
for a film like this,
for the type of film, but again, it's still $100 million, $80 million quid.
Yeah,
that's still a decent chunk of change. It's not as if they're scrabbling pennies from down the back of the sofa or in the ashtray in the car. This
by
is
no means
full scale production.
Yeah, but it's still on the lower end of that. Which is why it's even more surprising then when a script gets in front of the camera with a budget of that level with shit like this in it, where it's like, again, it all belongs in a different film and it's fine. I'm enjoying it, but this almost feels like it should be in like the Da Vinci Code, not in Tomb Raider, because again, we're setting up Trinity when we should be concentrating on Lara and her dad.
And the other problem as well with setting up Trinity the way that they do, where at the end of the film where she's given like the company holdings, these are all the companies that we've got, and your father's got all of the files, and we know he's got all of the files because she found them when she goes into the crypt. But that means when you get to the end of the film and you've had all the revelations and they're into the whole setup for the next one, it undermines. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've done a really good job at undermining her father the whole way throughout, because the thing is if the dude is actually alive and we're accepting the narrative as the film gives us, what have you, what a fucking shit father.
Well, yeah, I mean the fact that
Jesus.
The fact that his wife died, so he's a single parent anyway, and he goes, yeah, you know what, I'm going to disappear off to the South China Sea for 7 months, which turns into 7 years. Fucking father of the year.
Yeah. And then when she turns up, he's just like, so which one was it, Oxford or Cambridge? Like,
I've ruined your life, but
don't even, like that's bad anyway, but don't even get me started on that shit, because again, this is Lady Croft that we're talking about here. Just, actually I did go to Nevo, I dropped out because I want to be a street biker in it, and by the way, I'm a rapper and shit in it. No, I'm sorry, I don't know who this is, but it isn't Lara Croft.
No, it's no iteration of Lara Croft we've ever had.
No, and actually, again, the really annoying thing, and I keep banging on about it, but they so clearly want to be the game, but even though she's academic in the game, she's still like, she's with this rough and tumble gang that's the documentary. Like she's clearly not living off the fact that she's Lady Croft, she's in with this this gang of essentially art students to go and make a documentary on an island, you know, and she's knocking about with her mates, essentially. She's a young 20-something woman who's going on an adventure with her mates. She's not like loading it up in ball gowns and shit like that. But that is there in the character.
Yeah. And the other problem that I've got with this film is that after having watched this film and being brutally disappointed, I stumbled across an actual Tomb Raider film that's not called Tomb Raider, where they very specifically have Lara Croft as the main character, but with a different name because they didn't have rights to the franchise. And it fucking holds up as a Lara Croft film because she is fucking Lara Croft.
There you go.
With the documentary crew, she's the academic. They go into the catacombs of Paris. They accidentally go into hell. They're getting picked off one by one. And she has to use her knowledge of like alchemy and like old philosophy and stuff. And the two of them get back out. And it's brilliantly done. It ties into lots of mythology. She gets to be very smart and show the fact that she's educated. And she is Lara Croft throughout. It's just she's got a different name. So if you want to watch an actual Tomb Raider film, watch As Above, So Below.
Right, I will, because that's what I want from this. Because I will happily watch an actual Tomb Raider film with this.
As Above, So Below.
And specifically with, you know, this iteration of Lara Croft, the one from the Survivor trilogy. I think it's a character. She's fantastic. Okay, so I will look for that. Okay, so we get all the shit with the dad out of the way, and finally we're at the end of Act 1 with a load of shit that we don't need at all. Okay, now what's everybody's stance on Nick Frost? Because I'm gonna be honest. I have kind of a seesaw relationship with Nick Frost, if I'm honest.
When I saw the film in the cinema, I fucking hated the Nick Frost cameo. However, after spending the last 2 years serving customers from behind a Perspex screen, that entire thing hits completely different. And I actually found myself severely empathizing with his character and thinking, do you know what? You're the most sympathetic character in this whole fucking film.
Yeah, because I really like him in this. Yeah. But like I said, I have a seesaw relation because he's really at the tipping point of being overexposed now. Like it almost feels like he's working for food. He pops up fucking everywhere at the moment.
Well, to be fair, he is a big dude. He probably does need to get a lot of food in.
I think deployed properly, as he is here in a minor support role with a grand caricature. Yeah. I think he's very good. But a great actor, he isn't. I'm sorry, he's just not. So you have to pick and choose him carefully. And he specifically at the moment seems to be falling into the slightly villainous, cockney gangster standpoint, I guess, because of his size and his age now. Yeah. And he's almost tipping over into this, but he just manages to pull it back. I think the scenes with him are very, very funny. Yeah. But it almost feels like he's just here to get us that scene at the end. Yeah. It really does feel like he's here for that credit scene. Yeah. And they just wanted to establish who he was first. Incidentally, I really like that credit scene. But again, trying to do the game, so don't have her go to a shop and buy the guns. They need to be her father's guns. That's the fucking point. Like they have to mean something. Like you don't just have her go and buy them and go, oh yeah, I like those. I'll take 2 because I own a company now and now I'm actually rich. Rubbish. Like those guns should mean something. Anyway, before I rant anymore, we get the second chase sequence in where do they go? Is it Hong Kong? They go
Hong Kong.
Yeah. Again, really good action sequence. Nothing wrong with it.
Just don't need it.
Just absolutely don't need it because we've already had one, and now it just feels like we're treading water, and it reeks. And we've mentioned this on I think actually it was before we went on here. We spoke about it. But this sequence in particular reeks of a studio exec somewhere going, "Whoa, hang on, you haven't had an action scene for like 10 minutes here." Yeah. This is an action film. What you sort your pacing out. Like you're not telling a story. What the fuck are you doing? Like shoot, bang, bang, do something. Yeah. And that's what this feels like. Yeah. So we get all of that, and then like she meets the boat captain whose name I've already forgotten.
Liu Ran.
Right. So here's the other thing: if we're going to give her a support network, if you want characters for her to bounce off, which she doesn't need, she should be in the jungle on her own. Yeah. But she needs a boat captain and stuff like that. You like the games, clearly. You want to make the games. Where's Jonah? Why have we got this fucking Muppet? Like, she has this character already, and he's called Jonah, and he's a lot more entertaining than this plank of fucking wood. So, what is the point? Why does this character...
You've been a little bit unfair there. No planks of wood are that fucking wooden.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah. Like, wait, why does he even exist? What is the point in it?
No.
Like,
you'd be better off getting Captain fucking Birdseye in at that point. At least it'd been entertaining.
Or she just gets a boat. All right, she doesn't have to fucking drive the boat herself. Do you drive a boat? I think you drive a boat. Or do you pilot a boat? I think you drive a boat.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you drive a boat. It's got wheel. So I think you drive a boat. Anyway, I'm going to say drive a boat, right? I'm no sailor.
It'll do. Well, neither she, because
like,
it hasn't got a sail, so you wouldn't be sailing it anyway.
Technicalities, right? I swear like one, and sometimes I don't wear pants. That's enough. Right? So we don't need to see you driving the boat. She just needs to charter a boat. No. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
All right. And she needs to get shipwrecked. Right. That's it. And even if you didn't want to get shipwrecked, you could have a minor walk-on part of like, look, I'm going to drop you at Yamatai, but I am not waiting by this fucking island because Himiko.
There's your fucking Nick Frost cameo. If you're going to use him.
Yeah. Or if you actually do want to set up this whole Trinity thing, and bearing in mind that there are all these lovely files that she's found in her father's crypt when she's finding out about Himiko with Trinity and stuff on, she could be in Hong Kong looking around, and then she sees the Trinity symbols being loaded onto a boat.
That's much better.
Stow away.
Yeah, just do the whole Squid Game thing.
Yeah.
God, that's so much better, Helen. Yeah. That's exactly how it should be. That's so much better. So because
you can still what it is it's not necessarily an action scene, but you'd get a stealth action scene.
Yeah.
Which is building in because you've had the high value sort of like intense action chase with like the sort of the physicality, but you also, the other side to Lara obviously is the stealth element, and like stealth elements are the reason why I love these games. And it means that you've established that she can do both when she's forced to before she gets onto the island. So if the whole reason you're showing these things is so that when she's put in that situation, it's a case of, oh shit, I've got these skills, now I've actually got to use them. You've established she's got those skills, but also it's going to condense your narrative down much nicer.
Yeah,
100%.
They'll save them some money as well because they won't have to crash a boat.
Yeah,
and they can still have the same point. She's sneaking off the boat the other end, and somebody crosses her on the back of the head with the butt of a rifle.
Yeah, because they're going to collect their cargo, and then they find in amongst the cargo she's there as well. So boom,
problem solved. Much better. Much better.
And you don't have to spend 5 minutes dicking around on a boat.
Yeah.
Again, if it feels like they wanted the shot of her jumping off the boat, because
completely,
like, and that's fine. It looks stunning, but
again, the only reason why the whole thing with chartering the boat and the whole thing with the boat captain, the only reason that should be in the film and why that's there from a character point of view is if her father's already fucking dead, and you're foreshadowing this, because the whole point is his father's dead and you know that he's dead, and they arrive on the island and you're told specifically, no, we definitely shot him, he's definitely dead. Like, the only way that whole sequence makes sense is if the father's fucking dead.
Yeah. Totally, 100% agree.
Why this decision annoys me so much.
Yeah. So, but in fairness, you do get that scene between them whilst they're on the boat, and there's some story work going in there. And I actually think, for all I've criticised it already, and I know you guys have been in agreement with me as well, but for all we've piled on it already about all these various things they've thrown in, they've actually done quite well to front load all of this stuff about Himiko and Trinity at this point. If that's the film we want to make, like by the time we get into this island, we fully understand the stakes.
Yeah.
And they've done really well to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is she isn't looking for Himiko. She's looking
for her father
or her dad. Yeah. And again, Helen, as you said, if he's dead already, this all works so much better.
Yeah.
Like they've done it. They put the work in.
Yeah,
but it's
because it ties into the Himiko legend as well.
Yeah.
So that's the point. That's the whole point of it. And the other thing as well is she'll be on the island for some time, and she'll have the whole thing where she's in the water and what have you. And there's the tomb, and you have it so that the tomb, wherever the tomb's located, the water sources of the free-flowing island are coming from that tomb. So then you've also got a thing of, well, it might not have been a supernatural influence that was coming from the tomb. You could have been having that whole, the water supply was contaminated, which was then fueling like madness and paranoia and hysteria amongst the Trinity group and everyone that lived there. That's also why she started to experience seeing the father's ghost, sort of Salem witch trial style. Like it's all there, and it's so close. And the thing is I can watch a film that's utterly shit and it's absolutely fine. I'm off there writing the musical remake with Luke Evans in the lead role, and I'm happy as a pig in shit. But if you give me a film that's almost good. And just with a couple of if you just gave me the script once before you made it, and I would send it back to you, and I'd be just like, oh, it took me half a day to do these rewrites and we're good to go. Like, then it really, really annoys me.
Right there with you. Most of the things we've really piled into on the show have been exactly that, where there's money behind it and there's clearly talent behind it, but it's just not quite.
She's such a good leading lady. Like, this is
she's
the thing.
Fantastic. I think she's really, really good.
She's one of the strongest. Like, the only other sort of actor that I can think of that can do that level of has that level of dramatic range as well as with the physicality is someone like sort of a younger Tom Cruise when he was doing all of those roles, because her accent work is phenomenal. When you remember that she's not even talking in her native tongue and she's nailing these accents, like everything that I've seen her in, she is absolutely so good, and she's such a physically strong performer as well. The stunt sequences are fantastic. Like, she is carrying this film on her very tiny shoulders the entire time and doing an admirable job of it. It's just everything is letting her down.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I totally agree. So we're now, I've got a time check here, as I like to do when I'm getting really annoyed by act structures in films, as I've done a few times on this podcast. We are 40 minutes in to this film before she gets shipwrecked on Yamatai. Right, 40 minutes in, and we've pretty much had 2 acts. Okay, you've got all the setup in London, then you've got I need to get to Yamatai to find my dad, right? Yeah. So here it is, she gets shipwrecked, but we literally could have got here in 15 minutes. I genuinely see no reason why this didn't start on the boat.
No whatsoever.
If you, as I say, front load the stuff with the dad, right? Credits, have her wake up on the boat. She's been dreaming all of that, right?
Yeah, because
she's on the boat with her crew.
You do get a bit over the credits about Himiko, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
So they could have quite easily just segued that into her father's her father's life's work, and he went in search of it and never came back.
Yep.
You could, if you want that as well, you could open with her in an airport lounge reading through the journal and the flight being announced to Hong Kong and her starting to read the book, and then she gets on the plane and she reads the book, and then you cut into the voiceover narration of it with her interface of reading like the letters from the legal thing she's got to sign off on the paperwork, and it's a case of boom, 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 done.
I've literally written that. We can get all the backstory when she's reading his notes. Like, literally, it makes perfect sense, right?
Yes.
So we could have got here in 15 fucking minutes. It took 40, and none of it was brilliant, to be honest, because it doesn't gel. Okay, so she wakes up on the island. She's been skewered. So I'm thinking, like, all right, here we go. Like, we're away now. This is going to be like the game. Matthias shows up again.
Well, she gets skewered later. She gets skewered when she's running away.
It's when she's running away rather than when but she does get skewered when she's on the island. She wakes up and she's with Matthias. And this is the point on the first watch through.
Yeah.
I think I'd fallen asleep once and woken back up by this time. But this is the point where Matthias shows up and she's in the camp and stuff, and I'm thinking, right, this is going to get really good now, because this is the stuff that I really liked in the game. Again, here's a character that it just isn't right. I don't like. Yeah, he's slightly crazy and stuff,
but he's not, though. I mean, they try to set it up that he's been there for 7 years, and he's kind of lost the plot, and he's lost all his social niceties and all the rest of it. But actually, he just comes across as a bit of a dour fucker. It's just like, well, there's nothing actually wrong with him. There's nothing there that sets him apart from anybody else.
No, and this is the thing. Again, when you get this character in the game, he's like gone so fucking crazy. He basically thinks he's the second coming.
Yeah, you want him to be completely off the fucking reservation.
Yeah. And that's what I thought we were going to get, but we don't. The problem we get now is they dial a lot back, and I understand that this needs to be accessible for everybody. I think it's a 15 rating, and actually, if you're going to make those games, they would be an 18 without a shadow of a doubt.
I think they are, aren't they?
American listeners.
The games are.
And if you were going to translate those to film, there would be elements that you would probably leave. You would leave the almost rape out, for instance. You would leave a lot of the fucking violence out, I think, as well, because it's horrific. Some of it is absolutely horrific, but it all feels justified. And this isn't about the game, so we're not going to get too much into that. But again, it all feels justified because they break that character very early on, right here, where she wakes up in the camp and is almost raped. Were it not for the fact that she's able to rely on her pre-existing combat skills that they don't even bother explaining in the game. They're just like, yeah, she's a bit scrappy because she's probably learned some stuff from her dad. She's just able to be resourceful and get away.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely buy that if it happened here. And again, I'm not advocating for that. Rape is never a good idea. As we've said many times, like if you're using it as a story lever, then just use something else. All right, it's disgusting. You don't have to do that, but the threat can be implied.
Yeah.
The threat needs to be implied because the fact that it's missing from that scenario just doesn't track.
No, not at all. And
that's the problem with there's things that they've deliberately excluded because obviously it's a case of that they're looking for the rating, but then in a little bit we get the first kill scene and that's brutal.
The action sequences once they come on this island are fantastic, and I think that's what disappoints me the most is like I said to you, Helen, just before we started recording, I think they've got the soul of this right.
Yeah.
I just think there's all of these little bits that they don't quite nail, and it's because it's so confused, and it all stems from her. And I don't mean Alicia Vikander, I mean from Lara, the character that's here, because
it stems from the script. It's the wrong script.
She does need to be that fish out of water to begin with, and she does need that moment where she just goes, "Oh, fuck, I'm in mortal danger," and like the survival instinct has to kick in.
Yeah,
and I don't feel like that's earned here at all in the same way that it is in the games, because they absolutely beat the shit out of her for the first 2 hours or so of that game. Like she's absolutely battered.
I mean, the thing is, because I didn't play the game like watching somebody play a game is a very different experience to sitting and doing the controls yourself. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy if somebody's playing a game to just sit there and like offer commentary at the side, and sometimes we'll switch controllers around, but I'm happy to watch a game as I am to play it. But it is a very different experience, and so the sort of the earning and the lead up and the sort of the action sequences on the island up to that kill moment, that I didn't necessarily have a problem with that, because the thing is it is basically it's a 30-hour game if you're playing it completionist.
Yeah.
Probably slightly more than that, it's
the 30 long. But it's the AAA 30 to 40-hour mark. Like, it's a case if you can get through it a lot quicker than that. But if you're like me, then you've got to lock down every collectible and get all of the trophies and what have you. And that doesn't translate to a film. So it's we have got like an adaptation issue here where you're trying to condense it down.
Yeah, you have to condense it.
So I will allow you a certain amount of shorthand for having that holy shit, my life is in danger. This isn't playing around. This isn't bitchy girls in the school playgrounds. This isn't the mean streets of London. What? Like, this is actual serious shit. And I had a lot of, I was willing to roll with everything up until this point. I was just like, okay, we're doing an origin story. It's a slightly different version of Lara from the video game. We've had different incarnations. Like, if they want to sort of like use the video game as an inspiration point and then sort of develop her outwards, like the whole London thing didn't really annoy me, because the thing is if you actually dig into that whole thing, the Hollywood realism sort of aspect of London, with like where the apartment is that she's living and she's down by sort of Shoreditch and stuff, like I was just like, well, that's telling you that she's Lady Croft, because like that her flat alone's costing like probably close to £1 million. Blatantly daddy's bought it for her, like but I would have said it's because she was meant to be going to Imperial rather than Oxford or Cambridge, like just from the location thing. But that whole thing, I was just like, yeah, I can see how that's building the character, and it's showing you that she's educated, she's got the language skills, she's got people skills, but she's living her life on hold, and she's holding herself back, and she needs to get to the island and have the journey, blah 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 blah. Like, fine, you're doing your own thing with this. She's allowed to interpret the character how she wants. We'll see how it goes. And like that lead up until that first death as well, like through that action scene, the bit on the plane, like she's an amazing physical performer, as I've said before. I was here for it, and the way that she plays that first kill scene, like she plays the emotional impact on her as a character. Like, up until that point, I was in the film and I was really enjoying it, and I was just like, yeah, do you know what, like there's a couple of minor niggles that I've got, a couple of things that could be cleaned off, but overall, yeah, I'm here with you now, I'm invested. And then they fucking cut away to that fucking shadowy figure, and I was just like,
Yeah.
oh no.
I think this was the point.
I mean,
for me, it was a huge turning point, because up until that point, I mean, as you said, in the game at that point, you've spent 2 hours kicking the living fuck out of her. And they've kind of gone, since she's gotten to Yamatai, you've kind of had that where, straight away she's ambushed, she's put to work. There's the threat, because obviously they're all got fucking guns, and all. She runs away, she gets injured. All of that is fine. That's really good. And then you have that bit, it's really atmospheric. I think the scene where the guy creeps up on her is a bit too short. I think they could have really ramped that tension up a little bit. You could have probably had another 30, 40 seconds out of that before having the actual action come into it. And then you get the death, and she's completely robbed of any effect of that, because straight away she sees the guy running off. She chases him. We've never seen her show any sort of aptitude for climbing, but apparently she can climb up a craggy wall, which is wet, and all the rest of it. And then she has the encounter with her father. And it's like, hang on, you've just murdered somebody. And yes, okay, it was it may have been self-defense. It was kill or be killed, all the rest of it, fine. But there's weight to that. That's going to affect you.
Yeah.
And she's robbed of that. And because she's robbed of it, we're robbed of it. And then moving on from that, there's a complete character break where she goes, right, okay, now I'm going to stand up to these fuckers. I'm going to go in there with my bow and arrow where they've all got guns. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start kicking off. And she hasn't earned that.
There's a fantastic moment in the game, actually. And one of the things this game does really well, I said there's no branching narratives and stuff, but one of the things it does really well in terms of bringing you in as a player and giving you the emotional connection to the character is things like that. Like, death should have weight. And I will never forget, there were 2 moments from that first game that stick with me. One is the rape, because I genuinely have never felt so helpless and horrified playing a game in my life, because you can't do anything. It's just a quick time event. And if you fuck it up, like, she's dead, right? And it's so horrific and horrible that it absolutely gets you that sense of threat straight away. And especially after she's had the shit kicked out of her for the last hour or so, you're like, oh no, this is too much.
Yeah.
And so you're with her 100% when she becomes this fucking murderous killing machine for the back half of the game. But the first life she takes in that game isn't human. You have to hunt and kill a deer.
Yeah.
And when you kill it, she immediately runs over, breaks down, and apologizes. And that's the only time you get, that's all you get in the game, but it's got heft and weight.
Yeah.
Because again, you're like, oh shit. Like,
taking a life.
Yeah.
She's just killed a thing.
Yeah.
But then straight off the back of that, she gets captured, and then she's put through the ringer. And it's like, okay, well, she's already crossed the bridge. She's killed something.
Yeah.
And now her life's in danger. So, yeah, why not? Of course she's going to kill him. So again, that all tracks. Whereas here, you're missing all of that, and you're even missing the implied threat, because instead of being captured and going down the route of, well, here are a bunch of horny dudes that have been on an island alone for 7 fucking years, and all of a sudden Lady Croft walks in. Instead, they give us the greatest hits of Steven Spielberg for the next 30 seconds, where, like, Matthias, the first thing he does is take the book from her, which is literally Satipo taking the idol from Indy at the start of fucking Indiana Jones, right? And then as soon as we've done that, we're into Temple of Doom, where she's put to work as a fucking slave in the mine. And it's like, look, we get it. We've all seen the Indiana Jones trilogy as well, all right? Yeah. And we know it's the gold standard. I get it. But that's not what you need here. I'm sorry. Like, you're not making Temple of Doom. And you're certainly not making Last Crusade, and you're not making Raiders of the Lost Ark either. So don't even reference those two. But they do clearly think they're making Last Crusade, even though this is the first film. That's the problem. But then,
really spot on. Like, later on when they get into the actual tomb, there's one bit which is they
really think they're making Last Crusade. They really do. Which, I personally, I liked Last Crusade, but a lot of people would tell you it's the worst of the original trilogy. So if you're going to remake one, go for one of the good ones. Personally, I like it. Temple of Doom's my least favorite. I think it's horrible. Well, not horrible. It's still
I love
better.
Last Crusade.
Yeah, I like it too, but it's not. It's the middle one, I would say.
For me, the thing
Raiders
for me
is the gold standard.
For me, it's because I saw Last Crusade in the cinema. So it was the only one I saw in the cinema.
Yeah, me too.
And I'd seen the others once or twice. I wasn't. I mean, it's not massive. There's two or so years between us, but like, being that much younger, I wasn't that bothered. And like my brother used to love fucking Sinbad and Jason the Argonauts. All this stuff was always on all the time, and it was just one of those that Last Crusade for me it's like the first one that was actually mine. And I saw that for myself, and so that's where that one comes from with me. But when you come into this film, and as I said, certainly the second half, once they get into the temple, It's a, oh, okay, so that's the bit where Walter gets decapitated. That's the bit where he steps on the wrong ladder. That's the bit with the bridge. And so, right, okay, you've just sat down and gone, right, we don't know what to do in the temple. We've got we've got an idea for some cool death traps, but we don't actually know how to get out of them. How would Indy do it?
But again, what's so fucking nuts about this is if you're looking to just crib from something because you don't know what to do, hello, you've got an entire fucking trilogy of games that you can crib these tombs from. Like,
Not
and
just-
they really
not just the
intelligent.
trilogy.
and not just the trilogy of games. Like the thing is you're set in Asian, so it's the Asian tombs, and you've got a whole different sort of mythology and sort of supernatural thing that's attached with Asia, and I personally love it. Like if you're going to give me a Tomb Raider film, give me one that's set in Asia, because I love the whole terracotta armies and emperors and like that whole Asian mysticism thing. But tomb raiding as a genre, both in books, TV shows and movies, is huge in China and Asia. And I know that I've raved to you about the fact that I've discovered the best Chinese tomb raiding series ever, with its man-eating clams and people that go insane listening to thunder. It's just so much good tomb raiding, and really good humor as well. And I'm just like, if you're going to crib from something, crib from that one, because it's authentic. It's the same sea. There's a whole section that's set in an underwater temple. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and in all fairness, if you look at the original Tomb Raider games as well, so right up until you got to is it the Last Chronicle, the fourth one, before they sort of rebooted it, the best one there was the second one, which was set in China. And and it was all about the dragon that killed the dragon and stuff like that. You know, its
second one didn't have the T-Rex though, did it?
No, it didn't.
Like, and that's what this film's missing.
Everything's better with T-Rex. Yeah.
So all films are missing. But yes, I mean, I say not just. I mean, as you said, I don't know. There's the whole trilogy to crib tombs from. There's also the entire back catalogue of Tomb Raider games, plus all the other genre pieces. Sort of, I mean, Asian, South American temples. Again, they tend to be massive certainly in Hollywood adaptations, because it's that much closer.
Yeah.
And that's what they know about. That's the Americans generally not so big with stuff off continent. But there's an entire world of stuff they can draw from, and they just kind of go, let's just make Last Crusade. Fuck it.
But with all of that, even with everything to draw from, like, the intent here is literally to launch that franchise, and they do skirt very close to the plot line of the first game, and that's clearly what they're trying to do. Right? There are moments that are lifted directly from it. So why not lift the tomb?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, and it doesn't even, you don't even have to lift Himiko's tomb if you don't want. There are loads of tombs throughout the back half of that game. Some of them are quite small. Just lift one of those. Give us one puzzle for it to solve. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, this whole shit, like I say, this is where I really lost heart first time through, because this is where I realized, okay, they're not going to do it. Like, they've nearly pulled this off, but they're not, because this isn't her basically becoming Rambo. This is just, there's a little bit, there's some good action sequences. The plane sequence is fucking great.
Yes.
But, you know, it takes, again, time check, 56 minutes before she's alone, stranded, unable to do anything to actually influence the narrative.
Yeah.
However, we're finally at the end of what would be Act 2, really.
Yeah.
I mean, this should have happened at the end of Act 1. This should have happened half an hour in. She should be on Yamatai on her own, having to
broken.
Broken. And then Act 2 is then, because she's broken and we've established her psychologically breaking much more, that's when she starts thinking that she sees her father, but he's not actually physically there, and they're having conversations. It's a case of she'll see him and it will spur her on to like push it a little bit harder and to train to climb a cliff and to make that shot and what have you.
Exactly that.
She thinks she's doing that. And then in Act 3, when they get into the tomb, that's when she finds that her father's body is in the tomb. And that she realizes she's been hallucinating all along.
I've just got a note here, which you've already touched on, Mark, but just say I agree, really. Here's the problem with all this fucking street smart Lara that we've got. Like, killing the guy, for me, didn't feel like a stretch for her at all.
No.
Which it needed to. You know,
Yeah.
they need to put her through the ringer, and that absolutely had to be something
that should be her breaking point.
Yeah. And if I don't kill him, I'm going to die. So I need to do this, and then that needs to weigh on it.
Yeah. Once she's done it, it should be a case of, okay, I know he was going to kill me, but that dude's dead because of me.
I mean, the way that she kills him as well is, as I said, it's brutal. Like she's got his face down, and that's a long, slow, drawn out death. Like that is gonna hit her hard, and she starts to have that moment, and they throw it away.
Yeah,
along with the rest of the film.
They throw it away because literally my next note, and I'm guessing you don't like this bit, Helen, from what you said already. My next note is literally in big capital letters. Holy shit, it's Dad. Credits. Because that's it, right? She's found her dad.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole point of the film.
Yeah, literally. That was the point. That was the point I switched off a week ago, and it took me like 5 days. Like I tried getting drunk, didn't help. Tried getting like other things, didn't help. Like, you know, nothing was helping me get through this. It was just, I was just like, I just need to suck it up and push.
Because she's got no fucking reason to be here now. Like none was. She doesn't actually care about fucking Himiko or this tomb or Yamato. She didn't care about any of it. She just wanted to find her dad.
Yeah.
So the dad cares about all of this, but why should she? Just like,
I know he's alive now. I can go. My bit's done.
Yeah. And oh no, now they've got the book. Well, boohoo, tough shit. Should have burned it, shouldn't you?
Again, Last Crusade.
Like, yeah, exactly.
I will say, and we talked earlier on about trying to find positives, and there were a couple for me. There were a couple of nice little Easter eggs which I quite liked. Mainly back when they were doing the flashbacks, which obviously we know the opinion on flashbacks, but there was one in particular where she's little and he disappears off. He's saying he's going to, and we see the whole kiss thing for the first time, and she's standing there looking down, looking really despondent, and you've got the fountain behind her, and it's almost perfect because it's almost the cover of Angel of Darkness. Yeah. But she's slightly off center and they fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean that's the annoying thing though, isn't it? There are a lot of shots again that are lifted directly from the first in the Sliver trilogy as well, from Tomb Raider. There's like the jumping off the boat, there's the plane, there's all of these little things that there's the guns. Yeah. Like they know the source material. And that's what really annoys me. It really feels like everybody knows what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But can't.
Yeah.
And it really feels like, there's some executive somewhere going, no, that we can't make that because we need to make a trilogy. So everybody has to understand the first one.
No. If we're paying for Dominic West, then we're going to get our money's worth out of him. Let's write in a few more scenes. Like I want a few more scenes between Lara and her dad. This is the point of her being in the island after all. But the dad's got to be dead. Doesn't matter. He's alive.
But you know, funny, they probably paid twice as much for Derek Jacobi, who's in like one scene.
And you know what's really ironic about all of that as well is that actually, not so much in the third game, but certainly throughout the first and second games of the rebooted trilogy, the dad is felt everywhere. Like Lara's dad's a huge presence in those games. Dead as a doornail.
Yeah.
But it weighs on her because he's gone. So she can't just ask him what to do. He can't tell her what to do.
Yeah.
You know, she is the last in the line. Like it's all her. And that feels like there's huge sequences where you're running around Croft Manor and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like locking the butler in the fridge and shit like that, although you can still do that.
But Mark's done it plenty of times.
and there's there is
that swan diving off cliffs when you get stuck.
Yeah, there's some phenomenal DLC for, I think it's the second one, that takes place entirely in the past in Croft Manor, right? But still the dad isn't there. You know, he's gone. And it's he would be a much bigger presence if he existed only in flashbacks and ghostly apparitions and things like that. And you can still have him. You can still pay all that money and you can still give him loads of scenes. He just doesn't need to be alive with Lara, does he?
Yeah. He's dead. He's got to be dead because if he's dead, the story will more or less hang because you've got like parallels and you've got like a nice thing that he was chasing the myth of Himiko, who's the goddess of death, and she's chasing the myth of her father. Because the other thing that's really important as well, that all of the flashbacks keep showing, is that her father is mainly absent in the whole of her life. Yes. So the person that she's looking up to and idolizing is a myth. It's not her real father. It's an idolized version.
Yeah.
So he's got the father that she's looking for on the island has as much bearing to reality as Himiko, the death god, does to the actual reality that they find in the tomb. And it's a case of, again, you've got that narrative parallel that's been set up that then you just...
Yep.
Yeah, my other problem with the first scene with the father, actually, when they're in the cave, right? He's been there for 7 years. A, his hair is far too short, and B, he's far too fucking clean.
Right, there's that, and then what annoyed me even more off the back of that is he's been there for 7 years, and let's say that's how long his hair gets, and he doesn't get that grubby. All right, fine, he's let himself go. Right, in the world of the film, we'll assume that he's let himself go. Even if your daughter just shows up, she knows it's you, right?
Yeah.
Why do you all of a sudden decide to have a shave?
Yeah.
What? That would not be the first thing on my mind. Oh, my daughter's here. I better have a shave. That wouldn't be the first thing on my mind. Personally.
No. Generally, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, but no, I need to shave so I look like your dad, who was never around anyway.
Yeah, and
it makes
the whole thing, like, if he's been there and he's been on his own for 7 years, he's gonna have gone out of his fucking gourd.
And yeah, he would.
But
be,
no,
he would be
but it's also the thing about her dad is that although it's not that he hasn't got survival skills, but he is primarily sort of the academic and the rest of it. The whole thing is that if he has successfully survived 7 years while Trinity has been incredibly motivated to find him because he's their way off the island and they all want off the island really badly, like that is really motivated, and you've had the scenes in the camp, and you know, although they've toned it down from the game, like you have been more or less successful at establishing them as being ruthless and incredibly mercenary, and
they're
like
a credible threat.
Yeah, they're a credible threat up until the point where her dad's alive, and you're just like, how is a fucking academic like you survived against all of these fuckers? Yeah. They must be so freaking incompetent at their jobs. And all of a sudden,
not only that, he's been fucking with them for 7 years.
Yeah, and it's like, if that's what we're meant to believe, then it's a case of, well, then the antagonist, the threat that you've got, isn't coming from these guys. It's not coming from Trinity. So you've just basically you've set yourself up to go into the final act of this film with no credible threat.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge problem, and that's to say that was my issue with all of the last act, is like the threat should have been massive. She really needed to be put through the ringer to get us to where she needs to be. Like, she needs to be broken and on her fucking knees before she sees that.
Because she
never gets there.
Yeah, they find the tomb. She finds her father's body. She realizes that Mateus was telling her the truth when he said, I murdered your father. And it's the two of them in the tomb. And all of a sudden, she's left there confronting the fact that A, she's been going crazy and seeing her father's ghost. B, she's just found his body. And so there's no conversation that can be had, and C, the guy that murdered her father is now with her, and then it's a case of then you've got the stakes about as high as they can go going into that final sequence. And
on a whole other level, you've also got her literally exercising the demons of her father, stepping out of the shadow of his ghost. Like, you've literally, like, you've got a story. It's about something,
and it's a really satisfying ending. It's a proper. She has earned her ending by this stage,
and it also propels her forward then into what would be films 2 and 3 of the franchise, where now she can actually claim the fact that she is Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
And she's also it's not just a case of Trinity were interested in things that are a little bit dangerous and stuff. It's a case of she's actually got a fucking axe to grind now with Trinity and the rest of it, because it's a case of, well, no, I've got confirmation that they are the most evil people in the world. They are responsible for my father's death, and it turns out that they've had their claws in my father's company, and I've got to do a whole load of shit. Like, it just, it sets it up so much better. Like, this is, and it's a case of, I don't understand how people can be paid to do this as their professional job and not see this. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Especially when it's already been fucking written for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
if this is the story you want to tell, yes, you need to adapt it. We're big fans of that, and we're always saying that things need to be adapted. Okay, you can't just literally film the game, but that core narrative and all of the beats that you need are there. You just need to transpose them.
But you touched on earlier on, it's that fact of you've got people who are in the filmmaking business as a business, not as storytellers, and all they're thinking is, right, okay, that slowed down. There wasn't a car chase or a gunshot in that bit, so now I'm bored. I'm not actually bored because the narrative's holding me, but I feel I should have more. So put more fucking guns in, put more boobs in it, do something to make it interesting for me, Joe Idiot. And that's the problem. So then instead of having a cogent story, you have half a cogent story interspersed with bullshit.
Yeah, it sort of feels to me, and we do a lot of video game adaptations on this show, I know, but it sort of feels to me like games now are where kind of comic books were 20 years ago, where when they try and get adapted into films now, you got a bunch of suits who don't understand them.
Yes.
won't bring those writers in because they're video game writers. What the fuck do they know? Yeah.
Except they might go and write a 30-hour game, which kicks
and
you in the bollocks every time.
It'll be better than any film I see that year. Like I literally a month ago finished the Guardians of the Galaxy game. That's just played it over Christmas, right? That is better than every single one of those Guardians of the Galaxy movies. It is a much better story. It is much better acted. It is fucking phenomenal. And there's nothing wrong with those Guardians films. I love them, right? Game is 100% better, but nobody will talk about that because it's a video game.
Yeah,
and
there's still that snobbery around it.
Right
it's the same as comics, as you say, pre-X-Men. So when was the first X-Men? Was it 99?
98, 99.
Pre that, comic book movies were the redheaded stepchildren. You didn't talk about them. They were shit. You had Spider-Man in a pair of fucking pajamas because they didn't bother doing the costume properly. You had Captain America with a bin lid for a shield because it was like, oh, well, it's only fucking comic book nerds. We're going to watch it anyway, so we might only sell like 3 copies, so it doesn't really matter. And that took a long time. And it was only when they came along with the first X-Men movement, right? Actually, spend a bit of money on it, spend a bit of time with it, and actually you get a coherent film. Don't necessarily talk about particular lines and films 2 and 3, but generally you look at it and think, all right, okay, that's a tipping point, that's a turning point where actually you get decent product. And we're still waiting for that film adaptation of a game which actually does the source material justice.
Agreed, but even more so than that, it's like, yes, that first X-Men film was probably what kicked off the chain reaction that now led us to the MCU. Yeah. But even then, in those early days of those early Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, Spider-Man films, of the X-Men films, of Blade and all of those, it was like, yes, but we're going to do our version of that. So we won't put them in comic accurate costumes. We won't use those storylines. We'll adapt them. And, as regular listeners know, I've written about this ad length. But it's a case of, no, actually, all that work is there for you. You just need to pick it up and, make the costumes a little easier on the eye for screen. But you don't have to touch that story because it's perfect as it is.
Yeah.
You're just transposing the medium. And that's what needs to happen here.
There were times that they did it successfully, like The Crow. The Crow's brilliant. I love The Crow. And the Tim Burton's version of Batman, because Tim Burton's got such the way that he visualizes things has got that cartoon element to it.
Yeah.
That just meant, and also, like, I don't care what people say, I do think Michael Keaton is probably one of the best Batmans because he does both the Bruce Wayne and the Batman equally, whereas most actors tend to fall stronger on one of them, whereas he's got both of them.
He's a top tier Batman.
But
I think he's probably about number 4, but he's a top tier. He's up there.
It's a case of, I think if he was younger, and so it was a case of like the reboots had sort of happened sooner because it's a case of that it was still a sort of a push of a project. And the main reason we got as good a film as we did was because Tim Burton is Tim Burton and he gets the creative control. But what I think is really interesting is that although video game films are still kind of languishing and they're throwing a lot of money at them, like Jesus Christ, there was a lot of money in the Assassin's Creed film, like fuck me, there was a lot, and again fucking travesty. But what's interesting is that you're getting sort of TV shows now that are based on video games, and they're really successful because I know that I made you watch Arcane, Chris.
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic.
It's amazing, and I'm really optimistic for The Last of Us.
Yeah, so am I. Because I actually think that's a story that didn't work very well in the game, so I think that will adapt better to TV.
Yeah. And I think The Witcher is another one. I think they did very well with that.
I love.
And I think the thing is that because they're, even though most video games are single narrative, there's enough in them that actually you can stretch it out into a longer form. You don't necessarily have to cram it onto 2 hours.
Yeah.
You can explore that depth, and you can really build those characters. And because you spend so long with the characters in the game, I mean, let's say this is a 30 to 40 hour game if you complete it. I mean, I don't 100% many games, mainly because I can't be asked. But I went through the original Spider-Man, the Marvel Spider-Man game last year during lockdown because I was fucking bored. So I went back to that and I 100%ed it, and then I did Miles Morales. And it's one that you get so much out of it, and there's you think, right, okay, there are entire story arcs in here that could run for fucking ages. But there's that snobbery that says, oh, it's a video game.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to put the time into it. Nobody's going to care about it. So if we spend $100 million, $150 million, $200 million on a movie or a TV show, we're not seeing that investment back, and that's what they look at. And rather than looking at the models of the MCU and even the DC movies, they bring in bank, they make money.
Yeah, it's because there's nothing wrong with those stories to begin with.
The stories are there. The work is already done. And I mean, we talked about this. I think it was on S&PD when we looked at the Spider-Man series from the early 90s, and that was the same there, where we said, look, you can adapt it, and the work, it's a bit of work to adapt it, but the story is already there.
Yeah.
And instead, they kind of might as well just scan the fucking comic book and stuck it on screen in still form.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you get here. So the property is already there. The work has already been done. And they went, yeah, but we don't really have the confidence in that because, and whether that's because they don't know, whoever's putting it together has gone, I don't actually think I can do that justice, in which case I'll just throw something together. Or they've got a different property and they've gone, you know what? If we make this Tomb Raider, some fucker's going to buy it.
I think what it is the difference between, say, the MCU and something like this is video games haven't found their Kevin Feige yet. And that is all it is. Yeah. Because especially when you look at this,
it's a near miss.
It's a near miss. Squeenix were involved. Their name is all over this. All right, so it wasn't like they didn't have involvement. Yeah, as I say, they've credited Rhianna Pratchett. Like they've ticked all the right boxes. They've paid lip service to all the right people. But ultimately, you still feel that whoever was stamping the checks has gone, no, I don't really understand this, but apparently the games have sold loads, so we'll make it. And then the difference when you get to something like Arcane, then I remember talking to you about it, was like that felt like they didn't know if they get another shot, and everybody was involved cared about it so much, and like the original studio was involved. It's them that have done it. It's them, and it just felt like they really, in the same way that Feige does with the Marvel stuff, they just really absolutely believed in their product. And they were like, you know what? If we only do this once, we're going to do it fucking right. Yeah. And I respect the hell out of them for that. Yeah. And I think that's what this doesn't do. It's like, we get 3 of these easy because they'll sell. So don't worry about it. We're gonna keep some stuff under the counter. Yeah. And we won't go for a hard R. And and somebody just didn't quite get it.
And the thing is, I mean, you touched on earlier on. I mean, this as a franchise, is one of the biggest of all time. Yeah. It's
undoubtedly.
You take out your FIFA and your Madden and your NHL. This is probably one of the biggest selling game franchises ever.
And it's not just even the game. Lara Croft is an icon.
Yeah. But Lara Croft became synonymous with PlayStation, because up until that point, the PS1 was kind of floundering, and all of a sudden you had this icon. You had your Mario, you had your Sonic. It's Lara Croft. Everybody knew Lara Croft was. And again, this is generally my touchstone. Even my mother knows who Lara Croft is.
Yeah, literally every. I'm not joking. I genuinely think you could show a picture to a pensioner, and they would go. They'd at least go, "Oh yeah, Tomb Raider." Even if they didn't know it was Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. So you think, okay, well, this was never not going to sell. No, this was never not going to. No, you would never go into this thinking, right? Is anybody actually going to want to see this? Especially on the back of the. I mean, there was the original games and the original style of game. I quite liked the last ones. I liked Legend. I liked Underworld. But it was like, right, okay, we're going to reboot the franchise because they were kind of going stale. They were kind of getting samey. I really enjoyed the remake they did of the original one as well. It was an Anniversary where they updated the graphics. That I thought that was really good. But the franchise had kind of run, or the series had kind of run its course at that point. There wasn't a lot different about the last couple of games, other than they tried to weave this narrative in where you had stuff about the mother and Nadia and stuff like that. So rebooting the game was great, but regardless of that, whether they rebooted the game or not, you could have said, right, this is how Lara Croft became Lara Croft. This is the film we're going to make, and we're going to give you a trilogy of films that says, this is Lara Croft where we start, this is where you know her, this is where her story ends.
Yeah.
People are queuing up around the fucking block to see that.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't get about this film.
I paid full price to buy a cinema ticket in fucking London to see it.
I paid thousands of pounds to sit on a plane and see it.
I think
I don't think that was your sole reason for being on the plane.
I think I paid $11.99 to watch it, but I have watched it twice. It really wasn't. Paid for itself.
Anyway, that was kind of a diversion, but on topic, I think.
Yeah. Which makes a real fucking change. Let's be honest.
It does. So to bring it back, right? We have all the shit with Dad. We've spoken at length about that. We know we dislike that. Dad sets off to put things right because now there's a middle-aged white man involved. So how dare this little girl go and sort this problem out that she's?
But no, middle-aged white men save everything.
Yeah. So Dad's around, so he's got to sort it out because Lara can't possibly.
Yeah.
Right, look,
like he hasn't. The only reason why he hasn't done it for the last 7 years is because he's actually been quite enjoying his vacation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but now that Lara's here and she's fucked everything up, it's all her fault, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The woman fucking wins everything. So
to be fair, I have kids. I empathise. I could do with 7 years in the jungle as well.
But what we've also established by this is that obviously the defining Croft trait is that when faced with a big fucking problem that looks like it's going to potentially need to be resolved, you know, quite quickish, you're going to sit on your ass for 7 years and twiddle your thumbs and ignore it with your fingers in your ears, singing little songs to yourself, like, you know, like father, like daughter.
Yeah. Also, just before we move off the dad reunion scene, even with everything we've said about the script already, if you're going to put an ounce of work into this at all, could we not have come up with something better than Sprout?
I know.
Oh,
really?
God.
That's so fucking generic, and like there's no. It's just horrible. Like, give us something individual. I know loads of people that call their kids Sprout. Like, I
call my kids a lot of things. Sprout isn't one of them.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just not. Fuck. It just doesn't do it, does it? It just does not do it. It's too like.
And the whole fucking kiss in the fingers thing. Is that what does
the
that
whole
add?
Hunger Games salute?
Yeah. It's like, fuck's sake, that's not doing anything. Again, it's not adding anything to either of their characters. It's not.
I would argue it actually makes them more emotionally distant, because why can't he just kiss her on the forehead?
Exactly.
You know what's wrong with that?
Because he's a shit father.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But we tend to overcompensate.
So anyway,
I mean, they tend to overcompensate.
He goes to sort this shit out. Yeah. She wakes up, goes after him. Right.
Yeah.
Now. She
also,
massacres.
You got that really fucking awful cut as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Where it's like she wakes up, she realizes he's gone, and all of a sudden you just cut to these rocks as they explode.
Yeah, right. She massacres away throughout the entire camp. Yeah, the rocks explode.
Yeah.
Like he's got to open the thing now and sort everything out. She massacres away through the camp. Again, like good kills, like it being an apex predator and stuff like that. That's all I wanted out of this film. I don't appreciate the context that we've got it in. It doesn't work, but you know, a bit like the DCEU films, I'll take it all day long. This is what I bought the ticket for. Or this is what I plugged the headphones in for on the plane. But anyway, we get all of this. She massacres God knows how many people. Then gets to Matthias, where her dad's life is literally on the line, and now she struggles, where she's got a gun pointed at him. He's like, "You won't kill me." No, she's literally just killed about 50 people to get you, and she literally seconds ago shot a dude in the back.
Well,
what sense does it make that she won't just pull the trigger?
Not only that, right? She swans through the camp with a bow. Again, goes full Katniss with her. She's just topping everybody, and then she has a clean shot on Matthias.
That's what I'm saying. Why falter now?
But not even when they're at the door to the temple. When he comes in reading the fucking book, he's not even looking.
No, it makes
no
sense.
Finish it right now.
And she literally shoots a dude in the back.
Yeah, the opportunity is there, and she just I'll hide behind this thing, and I'll hide behind this fucking cupboard instead. Why?
But the thing is, the thing is as well is that the reason why she doesn't go for the book is she's going for the phone because she wants to radio for rescue. Okay, so let's go with the alternative version of the film where the father's dead. She doesn't know that he's dead at this point. She thinks that he's actually still alive and he's just fucked off because she's woken up stitched together in the cave and she's found all of his research and his notes about Trinity, and she's just like, oh, he must have gone and done that, and that's why I'm going to go and do this, and because I know my father's alive, I'm going to go on this murderous rampage because they're the only thing that's stopping me getting to my father. And so she's not really giving a shit about the research book at this point because she knows all of that crap. What she's wanting the phone so that she can get the exit off of the island. So she picks the phone up and she dials the one person that she knows has got connections that can get her off the island, which is the lawyer, Anna, the power of attorney, head of Trinity. And so you'd have that whole thing where she makes the phone call and the woman picks up, and there's a little bit of an awkward thing because initially she doesn't think it's Lara that's calling because you've got the phone call. So you're setting up that ending there, but then obviously movement outside, the guards and the rest of it, the call gets disconnected, and it's a case of, right, okay, we've got to go for the action thing. And then it's a case of the father doesn't even need to be at the front because it's a case of they've still got this phone call and the phone can be ringing, and that whole shitstorm outside and also they've established that she can solve puzzles and stuff, and yet she just jimmies up the door and just starts swinging things around. She's not referring to anything. There is absolutely nothing.
She's like fucking Rain Man.
How is she making these decisions? Like with the puzzle that she has to solve, or she's hanging off of a door and like shoving crystals into it, which, in fairness, like, oh, it's a color puzzle, and that whole I don't think she'd be passing her GCSEs if that was her solution to it.
I mean, those traps are appalling. But just to circle back slightly to what you said about the phone call, like, you're dead right. You save that for the end. You save the reveal with Anna till the end, as they do in the game. Like, you find out that Anna is the head of Trinity and stuff, and that all works. If she radios Anna to get her off the island, naturally finds out that all works, right?
Yeah.
But the whole mess about it going for the phone is something that they've created themselves and written into the script. Because actually, again, if you just follow the story that's already there for you, the whole reason you can't get off the island is because Himiko prohibits it. Like, she controls the weather and shipwrecks anybody that tries to leave. And that adds that whole spooky, mysterious element to it again. Like, you don't have to prove that it is or isn't Himiko, but it could be like, well, we can't leave because the weather is ridiculous and has been for 7 years. We're just in a tropical storm system. Yeah. We don't get a break. We can't leave. Rather than writing in all this rubbish about, oh, well, we can't leave until we find Himiko because the boss said. Sorry, no job in the fucking world is worth that, is it? If you're that mad and all that's keeping you there is because work, you just go, nah, fuck this, I've had enough.
Well, I don't know, if they're paying you enough, it's not exactly a fucking McDonald's that you can go spend all your money, is there?
Everybody's got a price, all right, and there comes a point where unless it's super bucks, like if you've been there for 7 years and you're as crazy as Matthias is, you just go like, do you know what, I've made enough, it ain't fucking worth it.
By the time you're that crazy, you don't fucking know anymore, do you?
So it's just needless question. Like, we don't have to be asking these questions, because if it was just supernatural bullshit, if they just went, oh yeah, the weather's terrible and all the locals blame Himiko, then we just go, yeah, all right, I'll take that.
And then the other thing as well is, so they free all of the captive, like, slave labor.
Yeah.
And okay, so boat captain's like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to prove myself to be a solid guy in this, and I'm gonna wait and stay behind. And everybody else who has been tortured and brutalized and had their friends and loved ones murdered in front of them by Trinity, and they have finally escaped. They are finally free because this posh little white girl has turned up and she's managed to successfully piss off Trinity so much that they're
looking
at her.
Game of Thrones?
I was literally took the words out of my mouth.
Wow. But
the great white savior again, in it.
Yeah. And so then it's a case of, okay, so I can understand the boat captain, like, character moment. He's not been developed enough for it, but I can see why he might stay. The rest of them, no way. I mean, maybe one or two, but that scene where he turns around and they're all standing up and doing the I am Spartacus shit, like, no, there needs to be one that's just like, fuck this, guys. Like, I'm sorry, peace out, I'm out.
I've been here for 7 years. You can get the fuck. I'm going.
Yeah.
And again, all of that works better if instead of being some random boat captain that she got drunk with one night and didn't even fuck,
it's one of her crew.
It's just Jonah. Again, the character's there. Her best mate, just Jonah, there. Like, he's her fucking solid go-to guy, always by her side, never leaves her, and would be exactly the same thing of like, no, I'm not going because Lara's still here.
Yeah.
Like, because the thing is if I was in that situation, I am not Lara Croft, but I am the kind of cocky bitch that fancies my chances in a bad situation. So
I'm the dude they shot first. Just saying.
Well, the odds are high that, like, if you put me in a Far Cry 3 game, I'm gonna excel. Like, I'm gonna be really good at all of that sneaking around bullshit and murdering and stuff. But, like,
that's worrying.
If I was there on an island and there was somebody else, I could probably count on one hand and have fingers left over the amount of people that, given the choice between freedom and safety and staying behind just by myself with my one gun and no further bullets or ammo, and to wait for this little white girl that's turned up and is spouting a whole load of mumbo jumbo supernatural bullshit that these insane people that have been murdering everyone are always talking about, I would be just like, you know what, not my scene, bye-bye.
Yeah. Peace out.
No. Oh, I met her because she guilt tripped me with using the death of my father to take her to this island, which I told her was a bad idea. And you know what? Surprise, it was a bad idea. And now I've been horrendously injured. I've been beaten about the head with a gun. I've been shot at. I've learned that they've murdered my father, and my father is very definitely dead. Like, cheers for that. Like, I was successfully like numbing the pain with alcohol. But do you know what? Given the chance to escape all of this, I'm going to stay behind. Like, fuck off.
It's because he's a dumb plank of wood that just wants to get his dick wet. That's all it's.
Aren't we all?
Got one.
Aren't we all? But the thing that gets me with it as well, I'll jump ahead a bit and come back to it, is you get this whole thing where the helicopters come in and they're in these fucking Apache attack helicopters, right? They're not there. They're not in Chinooks to get people out. There's no room in the back of these motherfucking helicopters.
They're all laying on top of each other.
So that you get this. But then she's there with a fucking bow and arrow, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can't take off." No, you just go fucking straight up.
Yeah.
Leave the bastards there.
And also, they do kind of conveniently skip over the fact that this is Trinity that has landed on the island.
Yeah.
And they've picked up the whole load of slave labor that has murdered all of their comrades at the company. And they're in the helicopter, they're going back. And okay, so they've got a gun pulled on the pilot. But the helicopter's got to land somewhere. And you would assume if it's a Trinity helicopter, it's going to be landing at a Trinity helicopter base. Yeah. How the fuck were they not all rounded up and taken straight back to the island? Like, how does it cut from the helicopter to her signing papers in London? How?
Well, that's because it was 2 weeks later, and we don't need to know what happened in those 2 weeks. It just happens to be another time.
Fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
and this is bullshit. Having skipped over the entire bit in the tomb, which we probably need to
look, look. Okay, so as far as the tomb goes, okay, here's Act 4, right? She opens the fucking tomb. I
mean, let's be fair. The way she opened that, she might as well have a fucking can opener. But she does all the swirly thing. As soon as they get through it, it collapses into rubble. Why did nobody just fucking shoot it?
Well, they tried it, but it wouldn't. Apparently it needed the Great White Savior to come and open it, right? But all right, so we touched on the puzzles as well. The puzzles are rubbish, but the one thing that I didn't even have to check my notes because I've been waiting to get to the tomb to ask you guys this, because either I've misheard this, in which case I've done it twice, right? Or Matthias says smoking mirrors.
Yes.
because he's clearly misread the script.
or potentially whoever's written the script has never actually seen that written down and doesn't know what the fucking expression actually is.
No, because he very clearly says smoking mirrors.
Yeah, it's like when someone says for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
No.
Smoking mirrors. Right, so they get through all the puzzles. Yeah, there's that fucking Crayola crayon puzzle where she's got to put all the fucking things in to blend the colors. Which, look, here's a problem. You know your adventure film is not working, okay? When you have a puzzle like that, and I am literally, and I'd forgotten what all these puzzles were by the time I got to the second time around, because it was like 3 years since I've seen that, I think. And I'm literally shouting at the screen, like, it's green, you fucking idiot. It's green. It's you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like, it's green. Like, just mix the colors. Like, what's wrong with you?
And then also there's this whole physics thing whereby they toss I think she's got the yellow one and they toss her the blue one, or the other way around. And she's up here holding on for grim death because the floor has gone underneath her, but she can reach down 46 feet and grab hold of this other one before it hits the deck.
However, second laugh out loud moment of the film for me, after that cut at the start, is the door opening and the henchman that's run through turning around and going, what happened to the floor? It's fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And it feels like an ad-lib to me as well. It feels like that actor was just standing there and went,
he was just bored.
Yeah. Fucking brilliant.
Hadn't read the script. He's an extra. He hasn't been given a copy. He's like, what on the floor?
Yeah. Fucking great.
Yeah.
So they reach Himiko with, even through the puzzles, with relative ease, I would argue. Like I said, I'm fine with the tomb being the third act, but if we hadn't wasted so much time on the rest of the stuff, or in this case the fourth act, but if we hadn't wasted so much time getting here, you could make this a I elaborate, right?
But again,
needed more threat as well. Because
the thing that I was going to say is that, like we talked earlier, I talked earlier on about when she gets her first kill, and they needed an extra 30 or so seconds just to really ramp up the tension. Literally, they might as well just farted and blown over all these puzzles. It was that brief. There's no even the one where they're doing the colors. There's no sense of threat because it's so quick. You're just like, oh, all right, it's done now.
And the other thing as well is that when she's triggering the traps, and then she works out that you trigger the trap and where the trap then activates, and it's a case of it's not a measure to stop people getting in, it's a measure to stop people getting out.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't try very hard to keep them out, did they? Like, no. I mean, the traps themselves are a little bit shit. Like, oh, look, there's 7 spikes that have just popped up, but only one person got infected.
But again, like that one was shit. And in pretty much every Tomb Raider game where they've had that type of trap, it's you have to stand on it in such a way that actually there's 9 of the fucking things coming straight through you. The one I did like was the which you get a little bit later on where she's running away, is the swinging spin, the spinning spike. And they used that. I think that was in Legend. It was either in Legend or it was in Underworld. But they used that one to quite a good effect, and they used it quite a lot. You're having these spinning poles on trajectories, so you have to jump over them and slide under them, and you have to time it. Which I mean, I'm not great at that type of game because I don't have that level of timing. I've got my sort of level of timing is on a par with Animal playing the drums. It's just not. It's one of those right. Okay, I know what I have to do. I just can't fucking do it because my thumbs don't work. So I was fine with that, and that death trap was okay. The rest of them, I just didn't care about because you even if you try not to think, but you know that her, Matthias, and her dad are all getting to the end. If any of the others get there, fine. But no, those 3 are going to get there. You know that one might get a splinter or something, but generally they're going to be fine. So, okay, right, great. But you can really take the time to build up the threat of these death traps to a point, especially with the dad, because you think, okay, he's still alive, but he could come this far and still fail.
Yeah.
They could kill him off. They could get one of these random spikes that catches him accidentally.
Let's be fair. We all knew from the second that tomb door opened and he walked in that he wasn't walking back out.
Oh, yeah.
There's
absolutely.
Like, there is no way in hell he makes it out of this tomb.
Yeah, she was always going to be sole survivor. We know that. That was obvious.
No way in hell anyone else is making it out, right? But yeah, you're right. There's no real threat. There's no escalation to the puzzles. Is the problem either? Is there? They seem like they're just thrown together. There's no escalation to get to Himiko.
Yeah.
And then,
they kind of felt like the ones in, I think it was the first or second game, where when you push the big concrete block.
Yeah.
And you've got the darts and stuff, so you just put yourself behind it and move it sideways. They kind of just felt a little bit like that. It's like, if you don't know what they are, they're going to hit you and be really annoying, and you can't run through because you haven't enough health points. But actually, if you look around for 5 seconds, you're okay. They kind of all felt like that.
Yeah. It's just rubbish, It's just, as we said earlier, it's just a straight rip-off of Last Crusade. Like, we've seen all of this before, and we've seen it better, which is annoying because some of the tombs in that game are amazing, and some of the puzzles are really tricky, and you
to
can
be fair,
easily transpose them.
For the whole series, there are some really good death traps. There's some really good tombs. I mean, aesthetically, there's some really nice setups as well. I mean, there's one, I think it's in the first game, which when they remastered it, they did it really well. But you're inside a cliff and there's a monastery and all the stairs are broken and you've got this entire set. They could do so much with that. And if you look at any, you go into the sort of the South Americans, so the Aztecs, the Mayans, anything like that. You go into the Asian sort of the tombs and that sort of lore. You've got all these things you can draw from, and they kind of just went, yeah, but Last Crusade, man.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's all of the puzzling. Which look, it's fine. It's just not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
They get to Himiko, and then we have this whole thing of like, okay, it's an infection, right? She's not actually the goddess of death or anything, and there's no supernatural.
Just the Chinese virus,
or
Japanese in this case.
Yeah.
Fine.
So fucking unrealistic. So far-fetched.
So unrealistic.
We get it all the way there, and it's just a bitch with COVID. Like, fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, but at this point, she's been there for a century, so it's like super COVID.
Yeah, like, fine.
Yeah, and it's no touching as well, remember? Social distance and you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, this film has an important message, people.
Yeah. Wear gloves, because when the two of them touch the body, the one that's not wearing gloves, he gets it instantly, but the other guy's fine because he's got his gloves on.
Oh, right. Now, here's the thing, though, isn't it? That guy gets it instantly, right?
Yeah.
Then the other guy, it's more slow acting. By the time we get to Dad, he's got time to fucking sing a song if he wants and have a beer.
Yeah, but we then realised that actually he wasn't an adventurer; he was a heroin addict. Because as soon as he's like, oh shit, I touched it, tourniquet, fuck yeah, we'll have a bit of that.
Yeah, he knew exactly what to do.
Pulling vials out of everywhere. Okay, they happen to be dynamite, because obviously he was carrying a shitload of dynamite anyway.
Yeah,
and because obviously if you're holding somebody hostage and taking them into a tomb where they're probably going to die, the first thing you do is give them all the fucking explosives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, all right, Dad gets it as well. Fine, she has to escape. We have the moment between them, which I'm sure annoyed everybody else as much as me because he shouldn't be there in the first fucking place. So this means nothing
Yeah.
at this point. And then there's this chase to get out of the tomb, which is good, but they just don't make enough of it.
No.
Like,
and if you look
they
at
could make way more of this.
The amount of time and effort they spent on the fox hunt and on the dock in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
This is the point for it to pay off.
Yeah. This is where
you
you
just have a couple of fucking things.
Yeah. At that point, you think, right, okay, you can put the death traps in, and she's avoided those. A la Last Crusade, a la all the games. That's all fine. We can have established that actually when she's being chased, she's going to try and flip over things, try and do a bit of fucking parkour. That's fine. You can build that up to the point where actually this chase is at this point she's going to fucking die, or she's going to die. She's going to save the world, or everybody's going to die.
But here's the problem. Yeah. And here's the whole problem with the fox hunt at the start as well. Let's say the fox hunt had not been on a bike. It was across the rooftops of London and the alleys of London and stuff like that. And then you have it pulling those same moves here.
Yes.
Then I would quite happily eat all of my words and just go, we absolutely did need that. Okay.
Yeah. Because now the stakes are higher, but it pays off. It means something.
Yeah. Because she's done it all before, because she's been chased again.
Yeah.
Right. And she's able to use all of those skills. But she doesn't ride a fucking BMX through this at any point, does she? No. She doesn't even ride a fucking trike.
And even when you're at the one of the dock in Hong Kong, the harbour in Hong Kong, where she's swinging off the chains and swinging off the poles and shit. You
doesn't do any of that.
That can all be used, but instead we'll have like 5 seconds of her chasing him, and then get to one of the death traps where, okay, there's a ladder. No, there's a sort of ladder bridge. They can use that to get out, or they can talk a bit.
Yep. More on the ladder bridge in a minute because I have some huge problems with that. But another thing they don't make enough of at all is the climbing axe. I'm fine for you leaving it until the end if you want.
Yeah.
But for this version of Lara, that is iconic.
Yes.
That is her weapon.
That's the dual pistols.
Yeah.
Yes. That is it is more iconic than dual pistols for this version of Lara. Absolutely. Like her main weapon throughout all of these games, her main tool is that fucking climbing axe.
Yes.
Much more needed to be made of it. I'm fine with you keeping it back till the end because it's like this is her becoming our version of Lara Croft. She's got the axe now.
But they needed to seed it early on because the guy who had it
much earlier,
Joe Blow fucking mercenary, doesn't know. Nobody knows who he is. So make more of it. That's the way he kills the fucking peasant slaves.
I mean, the obvious thing was to have had her find it on the plane, to be honest, and use it to hang off the bottom of the plane, and then that's her tool that goes with her all the way through. But whatever, right? They didn't make enough of it.
Yeah, they didn't make enough, and that's too early to have. If you want to seed it at the end, you need to seed it and have her get it later. But either way, it's completely misused.
Yeah. Okay. So the fucking rope ladder, or the actual ladder, in fact, she runs across the cap. Right. Why the fuck didn't she just kick the ladder down?
Correct.
Why did she go back? What? She jumps halfway and then goes back to fight him. Like, no, run across the rest and just kick the ladder down.
But stupidly, what she should have actually done is because she was the first one to do all these puzzles. She was the first one across. When she gets to the other end, chuck it off.
Yeah.
They're all stuck at the other end. They can't get to Himiko. Job done.
That was like huge. Like nobody would do that. Nobody would get halfway across that ladder, turn around and go, "Oh, I need to have a fight with him now."
Well, it's the Marty McFly, isn't it?
Yeah, you just wouldn't do it though, would you? You'd carry on across like you said earlier, Helen. You'd be like, "No, not my circus, not my monkeys. Fuck you. You do what you like with Himiko, but I'm gone."
Yeah,
like
fuck that. Fuck that bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, she does have a fight with him and whatever.
I like the throat punch. I do like the throat punch.
Yeah, I like the throat punch a lot.
That's really nice.
But again, you can have the throat punch. That's a very Lara thing, or this, for her to do. But we don't need to have seeded it at all earlier on. That's just something that she does because she's a fucking badass.
Yeah,
it's fine, right? They don't even really call back or give it weight anyway to the move that took her out in the beginning.
I was going to say they use it 3 times. You get that chokehold.
Yeah.
So the first time she taps, the second time it's the guy she drowns, and the third time she actually flips Matthias over and gets to kick him. Yeah. So they've tried to go, right, okay, well, first off she can't do it, then she can sort of do it, but she gets bested, and the third time she fucking nails it. Okay, fine, I'm all right with that. Except again, it doesn't there's no reason for it. It doesn't go anywhere.
No. It doesn't. There's no reason for it to be there. It's not seeded properly all the way through.
No.
But you're right. The throat punch is great. I would have preferred a kick in the balls, if I'm perfectly honest.
Well, I would say she does nut punch him, doesn't she?
She does not punch him.
she
Yeah,
does
that's the
not
first
punch
thing she
him and
does.
throat punch,
Yeah.
but there's no reason why you can't have all of that.
No. But yeah, that's really good. And then after she's bested him, that I think her actual escape is great, really well done. Where she just darts out and then grabs the rope, uses the climbing axe. Really well done. Looks really fluid. Could have come straight out of the game. Looks absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But then, what is the point? We get back to London and she signs the books and stuff. And what have we gained out of this journey? Because, we get credits at the end, right? We get the title at the end, Tomb Raider, which suggests they want to give it weight, and it also suggests the story has been about Lara's journey from Lady Croft to Tomb Raider, right? Which frames the story. Yeah. But we get there, we get a sign and everything off the company, we get Trinity, we get that she's been through hell and back. For us to get the credits at the end that just say Tomb Raider. How the fuck do you not have Lara Croft Tomb Raider?
Because that's what the first Jolie film was called. It's a copyright issue.
But still, you need something a lot, or if not Tomb Raider, then you just call it Lara Croft.
Because the problem is that the story as they've chosen to tell it, with the narrative choices that they've made, is not Lara's story. It's her father's fucking story.
Yep.
And the whole thing is that even at the end, wouldn't have happened if they'd done things my way. But at the end, so she's just gone through all of this. She's finally stepped up to take her place as a Croft.
Yeah.
Signing all the paperwork. And what paperwork is she signing? She's signing away her power of attorney and all of her legal rights and ability to step into her father's role to somebody else because she doesn't want it. And it's that completely undermines the whole journey that she has literally just been on. Whereas if you seed Trinity, from the beginning, she finds the notes, how she gets to the island is she sneaks onto the boat and it's got all of the Trinity stuff. So you really start building the Trinity stuff up there. Have the phone call that she made, and then have it so that they're doing the meeting and stuff. And she's still a little bit shaken because she's been through a traumatic experience, not because, maybe there was a problem with customs in the airport and what have you. And it's how she has to get out of Hong Kong is she needs to get, Anna turns up and she's just I need you to sign these papers because otherwise I've got no ability to act on your behalf to get you released from these holding cells and get you back to the UK. La 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 la. And they're doing all of that. And she signs the paperwork so that she can get the fuck out of Hong Kong. She can get back home. She can get back to her house. And as they do it, Anna makes a little remark, which is where all of a sudden Lara realizes that Anna was the person on the other end of the phone that was talking to Mateus, and she's just fuck.
Yeah.
And it's the case if you can understand her making that decision because she's just wanting to go home at that point. That would be the thing that she's fixated on. She's phoned Anna, so she would expect Anna to be there because she's managed to have that conversation, and it makes sense for her to be there. And the whole legal shit, but because I can pull strings, but I can't pull strings and act on your behalf unless you sign the legal paperwork to allow me to act on your behalf. That then all makes sense, and that then sets up a really compelling narrative for you to jump into the second film.
Yeah. It's almost like that was all written somewhere and they could have just picked it up.
It's almost like that's written. I am convinced that was written in one of the drafts of the script and the studio changed it.
It must be, because that's more or less exactly how it goes down in the games. It's you get the end and they do the classic, if you see in all the machinations of Trinity and you see Anna kind of putting all the pieces in place whilst Lara's piecing together who Trinity is and what they do. And then she makes it a mission, now that she's off the island, to take down Trinity. But we don't even end with that. We just end with her looking at the ledger and being like, oh, they're connected. We don't get her stamping a flag in the sand and just say right, I am going to fucking take down Trinity, which is what we need.
Yeah, and also you haven't really established that Trinity is necessarily the bad guys.
No.
Because the only encounter that you've had with Trinity is a bunch of people that have been marooned on an island, have been going slowly insane for 7 years.
But
so there is no way that I would take them as But
it's the name and the logo you get. It's all a sub company. It's like Pradis or whatever it is. So Trinity is mentioned in dispatches, but actually we don't know anything about them anyway. So all of a sudden there being this giant box with Trinity written on the side, we think, hang on, Why are we not going after Pradis?
Yeah, for all you know, Trinity are not the bad guys. Trinity
They're the fucking allies.
Yeah, Trinity are allies, and this is like a small subcell that has split off and is out to try and like throw the company and stuff. Like there is nothing hard and concrete evidence established in the film that marks Trinity as being anything other than it's an entity that exists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like it's fucking Apple.
No. They just, again, all of that source material is there for them, and they just duly flush it down the bog.
Yeah.
It made it worse for me that they then have the goal to just stamp the title at the end as if we've been on this grand journey.
Yeah.
And now we have this hero that we need to follow for the next two films. Because actually, I'm sat here going, I really don't give a fuck. Yeah. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I haven't given a fuck since about the 30-minute mark, because you've just treaded water. Yeah. And then we get the mid-credit scene with the guns. I've already alluded to the fact that they should clearly be a dad's guns. But again, why not have all of that stuff with Trinity, right? Why not have it poking around in a dad's vault, right? Find all this shit about Trinity. And then, there's a button on the desk. What's that for? Press the button underneath the desk.
Guns.
Door comes out, guns. Then you've got Trinity and the guns in one place. She can pick them up, do a pose. You know where you're going for film 2. Yeah. She's going to take Trinity down.
Yeah.
Makes much more sense. Saves you the wage bill of Nick Frost, right? So why? I don't get it. It's so, some of this stuff is so fucking easy. Yeah. And, it's the easiest thing in the world to pick holes in someone else's work. It's easy for us to sit here as observers and say all that. But I think the real annoying thing with this is that it's clear that there is talent involved. And not just in the cast. I genuinely think, like, the director doesn't really seem to have done much else of note. I checked him out on IMDb, but I generally think he knows what he's doing. He's got
an incredibly good stunt team working for fight coordination, and like the way that the action sequences are filmed, like that is all like incredibly competent, really good, solid work.
And like I said, he gets some good performances out of his cast as well. So I think he knows what he's doing. It's just if your script doesn't work,
and I think this is
just
the problem.
Can't polish
we
it
talked about earlier on. The script is like, it's like a fucking ass hair from being there.
Yeah. It really is
so close.
What it needs is focus.
Yeah,
that's all it needs.
And I think that's the problem. And I mean, I came into this. I mean, when Helen suggested, I'd only seen this film once, and I remember thinking, okay, there's some problems with it, but I don't hate it. And then rewatching it yesterday, I was sat downstairs. It's one of the few ones I actually got to watch on the big TV with the fucking lights off, doing it justice. And I'm sat there going, I don't remember this bit. I don't remember the bit in London being so long. I don't remember the first bit with Kristen Scott Thomas in the jail, in the police station. I don't remember that. I remember the chase scene in the harbour. I didn't remember then all the fucking about on the boat. I remember them getting shipwrecked because obviously the iconic jumping off the front and all the rest of it. And there was so many bits going, hang on, is this the right bit? Have I picked a fucking director's cut or something up? Because it didn't feel like what I watched before, and it must be because I've only fucking bought it once. But yeah, it was one of those. I was just like, I don't get where it went so wrong, because the material is there. As you said, there's clearly talent involved, and it's just like it's like an ass hair. It's so
it went wrong because they decided to keep the father alive. Like, change that decision, and then the follow through that you would have from that, like the ripples that decision would make, would solve pretty much 99% of your plot hole problems. And then all you're left with is then the pacing issue of how to get to the island. As I said, bring Trinity right in at the beginning to establish them as the threat. Job done.
Yeah, it is nearly there.
It's in sport, you define it as a game of fine margins. If this had just gone slightly that way, half a second here, half a second there, take this, but make this particular decision, it would have been this. We would be having a very different conversation if this film even got to this show at all. We'd be having a very different conversation.
Yeah, it would be. This is the film that proves that you can make a decent film out of a video game.
Yeah,
it's so nearly there.
It is, and I think even with my issues with the character and my attachment to the character, which I bring clear bias to this because of it, I would still take a good film with the wrong character, because we've had this discussion on all the shows. I'm able to detach myself like that and just go, well, okay, this isn't my Lara Croft, but it's version of Lara Croft in a story, and I'll go with the story, and that's fine.
And she is still a Lara Croft. She's not the Lara Croft of that one, but it's an interpretation that's close enough that okay, this is like a reimagined version, but there's still the core elements that are there. It's not like it's Tom Cruise has decided that he wants to play Jack Reacher. And I don't know if you've ever read the Jack Reacher novels, but one of the key things with the character of Jack Reacher is his physical appearance.
Yes.
Like the plot of the entire first novel is centered around the fact that he's got a very distinctive appearance. Do you know what that is, Chris? He's 6'5" and built like a brick shit house.
Yeah, I know. I haven't read any of them.
Should have been me.
I have seen the first. I've seen the first Cruise film, and I really like it.
It's a competent film. It's a competent action film. He is not Jack Reacher.
That's my issue with it. I've read the majority of the books. I don't think I've read all the Jack Reacher books because there's a fucking million of them. But I quite like both films. They're just not Jack Reacher films. If it was a bog standard action film.
But again, you can meet it on that level and just go, yeah, all right, it's not that version that you're reading in the book.
Yeah.
But that is clearly not a thing, that his physical appearance has to be a thing within this world of the film. So you just detach from that and you can enjoy it for what it is. And I could very easily do the same thing with this and say, I think Alicia Vikander is very fucking good. Yeah. The fact that she's not playing the Lara that I want her to play is by the by, as long as the story works and the character's consistent. But the problem is the story doesn't, and her character is inconsistent, because she doesn't go on the journey properly. You know, we do get things where like she'll murder 50 dudes, but then not shoot the one key one in the head. She won't kick the ladder down the chasm. You know, she turns to jelly as soon as she sees her dad again, and she's a little girl again. It's just she's because so inconsistent.
Everything about her as a character, because of the choices that they've made, and I know that I'm harking on about this, but it's because it's such a fucking brain dead decision to keep the father alive. Is when you've kept him alive, and then the way that then plays out, you've completely taken away all the agency from her journey as well, because it's not about her, it's about her father. Like she's still not getting that opportunity to stand on her own 2 feet and to exist as her own person. Like that never happened. She is defined by the filmmakers by her relationship to her father. Like that's it. And it's you can't have a main character defined by someone else.
This is what happens if Martha Wayne doesn't die.
Yes. Yeah.
This is what you get. You get a watered down, half-assed version, which is a bit nicer and a bit fucking less intense, and you don't get that same journey. So when you get to the point where actually, you need a Batman, you get Alfred.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. I think that sums it up perfectly. That's the problem. Is this is because of all of that. This, to me anyway, is a film that's about nothing. Yeah. And I hate nothing more than films about nothing. I don't, unless you're giving me for want of a better word, a tone poem, which I'll go with you on that journey. If you want to give me a visual art piece, fine, and I'll find meaning in it. But if you're giving me mainstream entertainment, if you're telling me a story, I need to know what that story's about, and you need to know what that story's about more. And it's clear that nobody does here.
Yeah, and this is the problem here, and this is the problem for me, is that so they have a lot of source material to draw from across 12 games, however many. There have been other iterations of Tomb Raider as well. There've been other media that's come out as well. So there's lots of source material.
There's a very good comic book series based on this version of the character. That they could draw from if they want.
I mean, I think they did some. I think there was some sort of not quite novels, but almost novellas done from the original games. So the original two. There's a lot they could have drawn from, and what you'll find, regardless of what you think of video games, regardless of what you think of survival games or puzzle games or action games, they always tell a story. There's always something to hang it on. It's not just even you go back to you scrolling beat 'em ups and stuff like that. There was always a very basic story to hang it on, and as games have evolved and you've gone into things being in 3 dimensions, be able to move through the whole space. Your sandbox games, your open world games. There's always something to hang it on, and whether you're writing a TV show, a book, a movie, a game, story is story, and story has to be king, because if your story is shit, nothing else matters. You cannot hang your entire franchise on fresh air. And that's what they've tried to do here. They've gone, right, well, we sort of have a story. We don't really understand it. It doesn't really matter because people watch it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. They relied on the name and the fact it's Lara the Giraffe to sell tickets, rather than actually saying, right, this is a coherent story that will give us 3 movies. This will spin off a franchise. We could possibly spin off into other things. We could spin off into books and comics and all the rest of it. Possibly even get really fucking meta and have a game of the film. There are things that could have come from this, but actually all that's come is 3 angry white people.
I'd wager more than 3.
Yeah.
I only know 3.
Yeah. I think that's it in a nutshell, Mark. I think you summed it up perfectly. I think that probably encapsulates everything we all feel about it. I think I think we all feel that it's nearly there. Is the annoying thing.
That's the real frustration. It's so fucking close.
Yeah, it is.
And it just didn't stick the landing.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I know of other people who didn't like it. I know of some people who thought it was great. I would love to get people's feedback on it, just based on what we've discussed, what we've been through, and how we've come at this film. I would love to know what the defense of it is, because clearly, it just doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, because look, I'm not defending it for once. I am actually really irate by it.
You were never going to defend it because Statham's not in it.
Well, yeah. But do you know what? I would fucking love it if, as opposed to Dominic West, Jason Statham was the dad.
To be fair, he could have popped up in the fucking Nick Frost role.
Again, that would improve this film 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what do we think then? Is it or isn't it better than Mario?
I don't know. I put them both in front of me and I'll stick pins in my eyes.
Well, that's normally my barometer, is if you put them both in front of me, which one am I going to watch, right? But I'm actually going to break with tradition slightly here, because I've thought about this a lot, because this film is so nearly there. So for me, I have a lot of problems with this. And I can't really say I enjoyed it, but I can see the potential in it. And I think it is very nearly there.
Yeah.
I think this has been made with too much of an eye on the franchise, and there is too much that potentially has been kept back for a sequel that we're now probably never going to see. But I do think it's nearly there, and I do think it's quite well made. So I do think it's better than Mario. But if you put the two of them in front of me, I am taking Mario 100 times out of 100. I will put that on over this any day of the week. I do think this is better.
I think you're right. I think, as we said, this is so fucking close. But given the choice of watching either of them or doing anything else, and I mean literally anything, I'm not watching either. But given put the two of them in front of me, I'm watching Mario because it's more fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I do think that I think you're right. I think this is better. I think it's so fucking close to being good. It just didn't quite pan out, and that's the disappointing bit for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I freely admit, when I saw Mario was the first video game film that I ever watched as a kid. And I remember getting it and I knew it. And I was really excited by the prospect of watching Mario. And when I started watching it, it was not fucking Mario.
Yeah.
And I felt really deceived, and it was crushing disappointment. And it was one of those moments where the scales fall from your eyes and you realize the reality of licensing and merchandising and marketing and just how much they will lie to you and not deliver what the film promises. It's my test. I like a Ronseal film. I like a film that delivers what it promises. And in fairness, if I was to come across Mario as an adult, it would not annoy me to the way that it did as a child, because I'd be able to look at just the artwork and the way that it's presenting itself, and I would actually have a really solid expectation of what I was getting, and that would probably mean that I didn't hate it as much as I do.
Yeah, that's fair.
Tomb Raider. My problem with this film is that, like you said, there's a really great film that just with a few edits of that script would have flown, and it's a case of, it's well shot. They've got actual locations. There's minimal use of CGI and stunt doubles. You've got the actual actors doing the work themselves. All of the little things that can really add to that sort of a film. And yet you're just, by the time the film finishes, you're just like, I wanted to watch a Tomb Raider film. That's not the film that I wanted to watch. And that's not the film that you promised me with everything from it's not even the film you promised me from the first half of the film, like the second half of the film. By the time you finish it, this is not the film that I wanted. So of the two, I think I'd probably, this is probably the only time I'm ever going to say this, is I'd probably pick Mario. Like, I think Tomb Raider is the better film. Like, in terms of, if we're going through the list of, like, you know, looking at the sort of the cinematography and like the sound mixing and all of the technical elements that go together to build up a film, Tomb Raider is definitely the better film. The acting, and as well, like Alicia, she's fucking phenomenal. I love the woman.
Yeah.
But Mario wins.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, yeah, as always, listeners, let us know what you think, especially if you disagree with us. We'd love to know why.
I mean, you're wrong, but we're interested in hearing you try to explain.
But we'll give you a bullet-pointed list of why you're wrong.
Well, have we just spent 2 hours doing that?
We always encourage debate, as you know, listeners. So please do let us know. And on that point, I think actually something we need to start doing as we go through these now is letting you guys know what we're going to watch next. Because on the other shows, it's quite easy for you to weigh in after the fact. But some of these films are quite lengthy. So I think from now on, if we let you know if you guys have any thoughts on what we're coming up against, then you can let us know beforehand. And also keep sending those suggestions in as well. But I think next up for us, Mark, is Bat Pussy. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct, yeah.
Okay. So if anybody's seen Bat Pussy, if anybody has thoughts on it.
Was that just on the Amazon?
You suggested it.
It was just on the Amazon list, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't even know if it's on Amazon. I don't even know where we're going to find it. So we're planning to do Bat Pussy next.
It certainly was.
If you listen to the next episode and it's not Bat Pussy, it's because we couldn't find it.
It's because it's been pulled from Prime, basically.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was definitely on Prime because we just went through a whole list, didn't we? But yeah, love to know what you think. Please get in touch on Twitter at ddpodcastnet. You go to our website, ddpodcast.net. We also get our previous episodes and other shows as well. Wherever you get your podcast from, like, share, subscribe, leave us a message. We get back to you as best we can. Until next time.
See you later.
Bye.